swing, and he did. Shore bombs in the All-Star game. Manel has rallied in the swing. With the hat trick. Look out, Chop House. National League takes the lead 4-3. Unbelievable. Aranda slices a fly ball to left center field, headed towards the wall, but short, and the National League wins it in the first swing off.
That's what it sounded like last night on Fox Sports. I got to tell you, I was locked in, glued to the television as we went to that swing off. I legitimately forgot that was a rule. Like, the first time that I had seen somebody mention it, I think was in the 8th inning yesterday. Maybe it was the 9th even, where somebody on Twitter, I think it might have even been Jason Stark, said, hey, just a reminder, if this thing is tied and we go to extra innings, there are no extra innings. And I was getting a little worried. I was like, hey, I think we're out of pitchers. Like, there are no pitchers remaining. What's the plan here? The plan was to do what I thought was some of the best television I've seen from Major League Baseball in years, Alex. That swing-off was a huge success. It was something that I've got to give Rob Manfred a lot of credit for. Major League Baseball got this right. That was awesome. I enjoyed the hell out of it. You hated the home run derby. Did you like the impromptu home run derby that we saw after the All-Star game yesterday, Alex?
Boring again, you know?
Shut the hell up.
Dude, I was locked into the All-Star game. It's typically I'm not locked into the All-Star game, and I think I got more excited as the game went on because you had it tight, you had the comeback, and then the tie game. I had no clue that swing-off was happening. I don't read up on the CBA around Major League Baseball, and then when Stark said that, I'm like, wait, what? We're getting another home run derby? And then you see the players that are involved with it, and then that's when you start to get excited, and it's like, oh, okay. And the end result, props to you, Major League Baseball, because if you wanted to grow the brand of your game, you did that in a matter of, 15, 20 minutes at the end of an All-Star game. The All-Star game didn't do it. The entire 4-hour production of your home run derby didn't do it. But for me, a 15-minute swing-off is what sealed the deal on Major League Baseball having a successful week.
This is what's great about baseball, man. It's a game, not a sport.
Yeah.
And you can have moments like that. It does those moments better than any other sport. And this is no disrespect to your sport of hockey. It is no disrespect to my favorite sport, which is football. It is no disrespect to anybody else that loves basketball. Whatever your favorite sport is, cool. They do moments well. Not like this.
No.
Yesterday, Kershaw leaving the game the way that he did, that was really cool. Having the moment for Freddie Freeman, that was cool. And his former home spot with Atlanta, being able to get that moment leaving the actual infield. The home run derby, which was kind of impromptu for all of us and apparently for the players who didn't know either until they were getting ready to go out there to hit the home runs.
Stowers wasn't told until Robert said it at the game.
Apparently he was told during the game, hey, just a heads up, if this is tied, we've got to go to this home run derby thing, and you're going to be a part of this because Suarez just got hurt. Stowers said, what? You're bleeping with me, right? And they're like, no, this is real. He thought they were messing with him because he was the young kid that was in his first All-Star game. And they're like, no, Dave Roberts has this history with him. They both are in the same area out in Southern California. So he's known him for decades, basically, a couple of 15 years or something. And so he was like, hey, Stowers, you're going to be up here. Stowers said he didn't know how it exactly worked until he saw the first guy go. He's like, I don't know if it's 3 swings, 3 outs, 3 pitches. I'm not really sure how long this is going to work. So it was great. It was super entertaining theater.
And you know what, the part that really sold me on a 2BK was watching the players react. Ken Rosenthal had it in his piece that I thought detailed it perfectly. He said, you forgot that they were playing an All-Star game. It was a ton of guys that acted like they were in a Little League home run derby because they were all standing up in the dugout. I think in Rosenthal's piece, one of the players on the AL side said, hey, we need to step our game up. The National League is all up inside the dugout. They're running out there when Schwarber hits the bomb. That's the excitement that you want in something like that. You just don't want the dry All-Star game where guys, after they play 2 innings, are leaving to go on vacation. You want that excitement.
Which is apparently a thing that happens. Did you guys know this before yesterday?
Not until you told me.
So I guess it makes sense when you think about it, right? These guys go out there, they play a couple of innings, and then as long as you're not an MVP consideration, many of the starters just leave. Like, they either go home or they go on their vacation that was already planned.
And not starting pitchers, the players.
Yeah, like Aaron Judge will leave and go to wherever it is that he's going on his private jet or whatever. Again, it makes sense. I'm not necessarily blaming the players for doing so. I had just never really thought about it, honestly. I just assumed they all stuck around and hung out until, the end of the baseball game that they just participated in.
Why would they do that?
So apparently they don't. So that's why some of the guys were unavailable for this swing off that they did afterwards.
Which to me doesn't make any. You got a private jet. It's going to take you whatever time you decide to load up and get to vacation.
Alex, you are not allowed to complain about this because you would be the guy that leaves.
No, not an all-star game, man.
You 100% would.
If I'm Aaron Judge and I've been to like 10 of them, I'm out.
You're going to leave as soon as you possibly can to get to wherever it is you're going to hang out with your family for the next 48 hours.
Fiji is going to be there as soon as I get when the all-star game is done.
We did get a few of these texts. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Also, the YouTube chat off and running at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL, asking something to the effect of, should Major League Baseball try using this during the regular season? And Alex, this is something that Jason Stark wrote about. CBSSports.com had a piece on it with their insiders as well. Should you go to a swing-off to end regular season games that go to extra innings instead of, the Manfred man, the runner that starts on second, etc.? I put this out on Twitter at BK Sports Talk. I am genuinely curious where fans are at on this. There were a couple of players that told Jason Stark, they'd be interested in this, including Logan Webb of the San Francisco Giants, their starting pitcher. So far, 75% of the responses in my poll, about 500 votes, say no, they would not be interested in this. I wonder if we amended this, if that answer would change. What if you did the same rule as is currently constructed for the 10th inning? And then if you go to the 11th, now you go to a swing off, or you get the 10th and the 11th inning. If it goes beyond that, we go to a swing off. Alex, there have been exactly 46 games this year that have gone to 11 innings in all of Major League Baseball. If you go to 12 innings, there have only been 8 games that have been decided by 12 innings or more in 2025. So very, very rarely are you getting to that place. Typically, games are ending with 1 or 2 extra innings. So I think if you said, hey, 12th inning, we're not playing it. You get 2 extra innings in any given day. It helps you with your pitching staffs. That way you're not just completely fried going into the next day of a series, for example. If you go to the 12th inning, it's a swing off. And you get the three players similar to what we watched last night. It's a rarity. It keeps kind of the novelty of it, so you don't see it very often. I could see that having the type of impact where if I see on Twitter, hey, so-and-so has a no-hitter going through 7. By the time that guy gets into the 8th inning, I'll flip over to MLB Network to make sure that I'm locked in watching that, because I enjoy watching the potential of history. I think that could have a similar effect if you have, 15 games over the course of a 162-game season for the entirety of the league, where you get these swing offs. I could see that potentially being something that I'm interested in. I could sign up for that.
It absolutely needs to be a part of this, and I would do one better. I would say make it the 11th inning. You get 1 inning of extras, and then after that, you go into the swing off.
You're talking about maybe 75 times over the course of the season where you would see a swing off.
Which to me,
league-wide,
for how exciting it was, I don't want that to be a novelty that only happens 10 times in a season. I'd like to see more of that. Now, you're not talking about it impacting your standing so much. Like, you're not talking about teams doing it 30-something times. But if you get 10 of them for your team in a season, man, that's just like
that's a lot.
It is, but it's like a shootout in hockey, right?
I know, but
when it happens, it's special.
In a shootout for hockey, you only get a point. Like, the other team gets a point. The standings are a little different.
I think that's going to have to happen if you do this, though.
You can't. There's no way to really do that in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think they're never going to go to a point system in baseball.
Well, they're going to have to make a lot of changes to their product in terms of.
Or you go in the 12th where it only affects, for any given team, maybe 1 game a year.
Yeah, but I just don't think that's good enough in terms of because if it gets people excited, I don't want to see it once. I want to see it more than once.
I think some of it is the novelty of it. Like yesterday, it was so cool because we had never seen it before. It's new. It's exciting. It's, oh my God, what is happening? Wait, who's part of this? Okay, so Kyle Schwarber's batting second. We're going to see Pete Alonso, who you wanted to see in the home run derby. He's going to be a part of what is effectively like an impromptu derby. This is awesome. Wow, this is so cool. And then going into a season, as a fan, you could be like, all right, who would we have as our 3 hitters? And I got to tell you guys, I don't think the Cardinals would fare particularly well.
Pozo absolutely is up there.
Who would the Cardinals participants be?
Pozo.
I think Gorman would be one.
Gorman, Burleson. Maybe Contreras.
I think Contreras would be one. I think Gorman would be another. And I would guess Herrera would be your third.
Nah, Pozo. Free swinging Joel, baby. Put him up there.
I don't think Pozo would
swing for the fences. Swing for the fences. I don't know. I think this is something that you don't want to happen.
Arenado would probably have to be a part of it. He would tell you he's going to be a part of it.
Hell, I guess. Sorry, you're not going to be a part of this one, Nolan. If you're saying 75 times throughout an entire season for all teams, I think that's still novelty enough to where it gets people excited when it happens, rather than if it's only going to happen 10 times throughout the season. That's not enough for me. If this is something that gets people excited and expands the brand of baseball. And that's what I think this does. The common person gets an update on their phone that says, hey, Seattle and the Yankees are going to a swing-off. Oh, I am flipping over to that right now.
Can I say something that's going to be the worst opinion that I've ever had on the radio? And it's definitely a hot take, but I kind of believe it.
Come on, man. You wanted to trade Barbashev.
He was traded.
You want to trade Neighbors for Bo Byram.
It was... I didn't say I want to, but I could understand.
You've had a lot of bad takes. Don't like Provel cheese. Go ahead. Try and outdo these.
That's a fair one. Aaron Boone should be fired today. I kind of mean it.
I kind of mean from an All-Star game?
Yeah, because of what he did in the All-Star game. He can't meet the moment. Like, what I learned last night is that Aaron Boone can't meet in the moment, and if I'm a Yankees fan, I'm actually I'm worried about our manager. If I wasn't already, I am today. And here's why.
So stupid.
How many people at home watching that game had heard of Aranda prior to last night?
I couldn't even tell you what team he plays for.
Do you know what his first name is? Aranda.
Jonathan.
Okay.
Jonathan.
You know who he plays for?
I think it's Cleveland.
No. Okay. He is in the American League.
I think it's Cleveland.
No, he plays for the Tampa Bay Rays.
Okay, so 1 out of 2.
He's batting .325 this season. He's having a really good year, a deserving All-Star, and it's been impressive what he's been able to put together. However, he has 21 career home runs. That guy was the participant that you went with for the American League. The other two options, like, fine, whatever, that's cool. Jonathan Aranda, who Alex thought was a part of the Cleveland Guardians today, after watching him last night, that was your idea of what you should do. Meanwhile, on the National League side of things, it was supposed to be Pete Alonso, Kyle Schwarber, Eugenio Suarez, who has like 100 home runs this year, and when he was hit on the hand, everybody had made about 10 different fan bases in Major League Baseball were like, oh no, please be okay, because everybody wants to trade for him because that guy hits the crap out of the ball.
Yeah.
On the American League side of things, you really went with Jonathan Aranda. That was your answer? When Bobby Witt Jr., who I'm wearing his shirt today, that guy was available for you, and he was literally standing on third base in the 9th inning? That is unacceptable.
I'm sorry, your argument doesn't stand when you're wearing the T-shirt with Bobby Witt Jr.'s face on it. It just doesn't stand right now. Doesn't work.
I mean, he messed up.
Maybe Bobby Witt was fatigued from the All-Star game.
He wasn't. He was standing on third base.
Yeah, but maybe he was
gassed. He was still there. He was one of the very few players that was actually sticking around as not only an All-Star, but a superstar of the sport. You had an opportunity to give us a chance to see like real star level players going head to head at the end of this game, this thing that we have never seen before. Somebody on the text line brings it up. TLR just told the story yesterday about how he missed the moment in an All-Star game where he could have had I believe it was down by a run or something. 07, I think, is the All-Star game that he referenced. Albert Pujols was his last position player coming off of the bench. Bases are loaded, and he did not use Albert in that spot because he was worried he would run out of position players in extra innings potentially. So he didn't use him there, and he forever regrets it. And Albert brings it up to him every time, according to Tony La Russa, every time he sees him.
Oh, that sucks.
Bobby Witt Jr., every time that he sees Aaron Boone, should say, you bleeped up. Because he did. Yesterday, he screwed up. And personally,
and you want him fired.
I think if I'm a Yankees fan, I would be really worried that this guy can't meet the moment. So, yeah, I think yesterday, Aaron Boone, everybody had a pretty good day, except for Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone had a really bad day yesterday.
My one retort to your argument is, I don't think Aaron Boone really has anything to meet the moment with, because if Aaron Judge doesn't hit in the playoffs, then they're going to lose no matter what.
Somebody said the list had to be turned in before the game. Maybe he picked him because, or in case he didn't get in the game. if he didn't get in the game, then he certainly shouldn't be a part of the home run derby that is taking place afterwards.
No, everybody gets to play. That's what the All-Star game is. Everybody gets to play.
Aaron Boone screwed up. Aaron Boone
should be fired
really
from the Yankees.
That's right. With Alex Ferrario.
That's a wild take.
And Grant Francis, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It might be a wild take. It's one that I actually believe. Coming up next.
With his Bobby Witt Jr. shirt on.
The biggest winner from last night's game was somebody that I certainly didn't anticipate. We'll tell you who it was next here on 101 ESPN. And Grant Francis, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, we're apparently going to get into it over the Blues and how much they improved this offseason. Dom put out a list. Alex is upset about it. We'll talk about that in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll also be joined in studio by Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues. He's going to join us coming up at 12:15. So if you're looking for Blues content, I promise you it's coming, just not in the 11 o'clock hour. Alex, right now, do want to continue talking about baseball from last night. I think there was one person not necessarily a player, one person last night that was the biggest winner from the All-Star game. That person is somebody that I've had a lot of criticism for over the years. And I don't know that he's good at his job necessarily, but last night was a good night for him. That person is Rob Manfred. I think the three things that I will most remember last night for, Manfred had some kind of a hand in all of them. One, wearing their own jerseys again. Baseball got back to what they had screwed up, and every player was wearing their actual team's home jerseys, or their jerseys nonetheless. Great. Good move, necessary move. He screwed it up. He admitted his mistake, and we went back to the way that this was supposed to be for the All-Star game. Two, the automatic ball strike challenge system. Dude, we should implement this tomorrow. They won't. They can't because of the way that the CBA is written and everything, but it clearly works. It's quick. Everybody, both in the stadium and at home, understands what's happening. They announce it. They say, hey, this is a pitcher's challenge. This is a catcher's challenge. This is a batter's challenge. We go immediately to the video board. Everybody, again, at the ballpark or at home, knows quickly whether or not they got it right, and we continue along with the game. It's great. It's the best thing that baseball has done since probably the pitch clock, in my opinion. So that was the second one. And three, the swing off. Smashing success yesterday. Couldn't have asked for anything more unless Aaron Boone had met the moment. Then you could have had an even better moment there to end that game. But, Alex, the three things that I'm going to most remember the 2025 All-Star game for, Rob Manfred wasn't involved with all of them. So whether you love him, you hate him, you're somewhere in between. I personally am not a huge fan, generally speaking. He had a good night last night.
Yeah, I think people still complain a lot about Rob Manfred and just kind of where Major League Baseball is at. And I think a lot of this is just the traditionalist in terms of the changes we've seen with the extra innings and with the pitch clock and then with the ABS coming in. But last night, to me, was a reminder of like, hey, he can get some things right. Because to me, again, you said it, it's a simple thing, but it was something that, I don't know, I just did not like about the All-Star game was watching those same jerseys that were just ugly every single time they tried to make them look good. Just go back to wearing your own thing. But the swing off, in my opinion, was the biggest thing that they got right. It's something that you look forward to now with an All-Star game that hopefully could be a part of baseball. That's what that's about if you're the commissioner. You're trying to find different ways to tweak the game so that it improves it. You're going to have people that get upset about it, but how can you better the game to bring in a new group of fans? And that's what the swing off did. I think the ABS challenge system is already a success, and it's going to get people upset because it's not old school baseball. But the swing off was the biggest one, in my opinion, that Rob Manfred had a smashing success with, because they might have fallen into something that can be really successful if they decide to implement it a part of their game moving forward.
Somebody on the text line, 314-399-9646, that is the Air Comfort Service text line, said, guys, does anybody actually remember any All-Star games? You're being foolish. Yeah, I think so. I think you remember elements of an All-Star game. So, like, for example, if you're a huge Brendan Donovan fan, last night you might remember that he went 2 for 2. So that's your own individual team. That's part of the local connection, right? 2, if you see like something really cool that happened during the game. I will never forget Alek Manoah when he was mic'd up during the game. This was, I think, 22, 21, something like that. I thought it was awesome, the interview that he did in game. And it was kind of at the beginning of them really doing a bunch of these. So that is another thing that you'll remember potentially. And then beyond that, it's like individual great moments, whether it be a walk-off in an All-Star game or the game that ended in a tie, which is not a plus memory, a fond memory, but a memory nonetheless. Yes, I think people will remember certain aspects of the game. Who won, who lost, I don't think that's necessarily something that you remember very often, other than the fact that like the National League has not been eligible to win for basically a decade for whatever reason. But yeah, I think there are individual aspects of the game that you'll remember. And for me last night, those were the biggest things. Wearing your own jerseys, the ABS challenge system being implemented for the first time in a major league game that I guess somewhat matters. And then the swing off. Those will be the aspects of that game that I will most fondly remember.
Yeah, and the bottom line is All-Star games, All-Star weekends, most of the time they're just not fun. Like most of the time, it's a time for these guys to be done, obviously, because the Stars basically left yesterday by the second or third inning to go on vacation. It's something that just has to be done, and you move past it, and then you get into the second half of the season. But for last night to get something that most of those guys that were still at the game are going to remember, and everybody in attendance is going to remember the 2025 All-Star game because of that swing off, to me, that's a success. But that doesn't mean that they try and continue to spice up the All-Star game every single year. Like, you cannot do that.
Somebody said BK went 2 for 3. That final at-bat was an anomaly, though. Yeah, I forgot about that final at-bat. That was a tough one. That was a tough one. I think in that moment, if I was the umpire, you can't do this because it's the wrong thing to do because it was a fair ball. But in that moment, I'd probably say that went foul. Just so we don't end the game on that.
Yeah.
That was a tough one.
Well, that's a human element of the game, right?
I guess maybe that was the baseball god shining down upon us saying, hey, we need to get this swing off. This is the way that the game has to end for us to get that swing off. So, it is what it is. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Alex, one of the next things that baseball is going to have to decide, this is likely to be part of their next CBA negotiation, is how they handle the Olympics. Rob Manfred had a good night last night. The CBA is absolutely going to be a bad moment for him because there's really no winning with this. There's probably going to be a lockout, and it's going to be a bad look for everybody involved. They're telegraphing this thing from a million miles away. But the Olympics could be another good moment for them. Manfred was asked yesterday about how they plan to handle this. In 2028, it was just announced baseball will be played from July 15th until July 20th, and it will take place at Dodger Stadium. Do you think Major League Baseball players should be participating in that? And if so, what do you think that should look like? How do they make that work within the heart of their Major League Baseball season?
I think you absolutely should be a part of it. Do you want the product to continue to grow? Do you want to continue to see advancement with Major League Baseball? If the answer is yes to that, then you have to play in the Olympics. And how do you do it? You eliminate the All-Star game. You eliminate that week. Again, most of the time, the All-Star week for a lot of those guys is just a write-off. Now it's an opportunity to go and play for your country and represent it. And just look at the Hockey Olympics. It gets people excited when you know that there's 2 weeks of these guys playing against each other at high-level competition. That's what the Olympics is. I know the fallback. I know it's worrying about injuries and not having these guys for the second half of the season. That's up to the player's decision if they want to take that risk. But for me as a fan, you absolutely should perform in the Olympics because that is how you continue to grow the brand.
I agree. I do think there are going to be conversations at that time. I felt the same way about the Four Nations face-off stuff. And it almost affected a team. Like Matthew Tkachuk was really, really hurt the second half of the season.
Ramifications carried over. He's probably not going to play for the first 3 months of this season.
True. Is that true?
Yeah, there's a report that's saying the injury he's going through or went through last year might carry over into this season.
So that's a big deal. And if you're a team and you've got a pitcher that wants to go over and play in LA for the Olympics and he's going to start a game or two potentially, man, if you miss him for the second half of the season because he got hurt during the Olympics, because this is in season. This is while they're already ramped up. This is supposed to be a time where most guys get a break in the middle of the season. If you're now going to be placed into the really high intensity playoff atmosphere games, I think there's more to this than just, it's an obvious everybody goes. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. And it will be. It'll be great for fans. It's going to be a tough decision for some of these organizations as to whether or not they allow their players to go over. My guess is they'll participate. They'll remove the All-Star game that year. This will be the new All-Star break for 2028. And it'll be a lot of fun to monitor unless your team is the one that potentially loses a player. That's when it is a little bit more difficult.
But, I mean, we saw Eugenio Suarez get hit. Now, I know everything's fine with him, but you see him get hit and he can't participate in the swing-off. Like, injuries can happen at any time.
This is a little different, though. We can acknowledge as much. Like, this is a playoff-style game where you're going to have, instead of your starting pitcher, which yesterday most of them go one, maybe one and a third inning, something like that. For the most part, you go an inning in this.
Yeah.
The starting pitcher in the Olympics will probably go 5+. And he'll be maxing out his effort in those 5 innings. Those are the guys that you really get concerned about, or guys sprinting down the line when their bodies are already in need of a break. And now we're just going out there and playing, let's call it 3 games in 5 days or whatever. Yeah. It's not nothing, man.
It might be more incentive for the league to maybe take some games away in the 162-game schedule and shorten the schedule.
162 games is part of the heart of baseball.
Yeah, I understand it. But sometimes you make sacrifices in certain areas, and that might be one of them.
Might be the Olympics. I think it is more likely they would sacrifice the Olympics than it is they would sacrifice playing 162.
Yeah.
162 is also about revenue.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think Olympics, depending on how it works, because I know like in hockey, the NHL doesn't get a lot of that revenue, but I just, if you're the commissioner of baseball, you want to continue to grow the product. That's how you do it, not an all-star weekend.
Somebody said, stop coddling these players, BK. I'm not telling you I'm coddling them. I want to see them play in the Olympics. Like, if it's just up to me as a fan, I agree with Alex 100%. Go over and play. Like, let's see Aaron Judge. Let's see Shohei Ohtani. Let's see all of the best players participate in the Olympics. If I am in charge of a team, I don't want any of them playing because I don't want these dudes going and playing in what is, for me, as a president of baseball operations of the Cardinals, the Rays, the Yankees, whomever, that game doesn't matter to me. My 162 matters and my playoffs matter. And if my player gets hurt playing in a game that is, relatively speaking, again, for me as a president of baseball operations, meaningless, whoo, boy, there's going to be hell to pay.
Yeah.
So that's something that you have to live with.
And I think every general manager in pro sports feels that same way. But the players get to decide if they want to do that or not. And that's the part that I think.
Well, the CBA gets to decide.
Sure.
This is a negotiation between the players and the owners. So and I have to imagine that is something they're going to be discussing.
And there's plenty of times that there's been players that don't want to participate in it because they want that break. But more times than not, you get guys that say, this is the opportunity that I want to go do and perform in.
He's Alex. That's I was about to say Bradford. That's Grant Francis. I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In 15 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers. But next, it's time for some NFL quick hitters, including a new rankings list from ESPN.com on the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. There's a change at the top of this list from this time last year. Do we agree with it? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Greg Francis here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night in the All-Star game, it ended in a 6-6 tie, but the NL prevailed over the AL in a home run swing-off in the All-Star game. So the NL takes that in the All-Star game. MLB will return to normal action on Friday, and the Cardinals will head to Arizona to start a 3-game series with the Diamondbacks. I'm Grant Francis. The Sports Center update's been driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Grant Francis, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. T-Bone out the rest of the week. He'll be back in with us next week. Alex, over on ESPN.com, they're running through their position rankings. We did the quarterbacks the other day. Today was wide receivers. They have a new player at number 1 on this list. Last year, the number 1 player was Justin Jefferson. This year, it is Jamar Chase as the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. Justin Jefferson came in at 2, Tyreek Hill at 3, CeeDee Lamb at 4, and at number 5, they had A.J. Brown. How does that match up compared to what you would rank them as?
Chase and Jefferson make sense, and honestly, I could hear the argument for whichever one. I think those are the 2 best receivers in the game. Is Hill still number 3?
I would not have him there.
I wouldn't either. I'd have Lamb there.
Oh, interesting. I would have A.J. Brown as my number 3 wide receiver in the NFL.
I was actually thinking I'd have Tyreek below Lamb, below Brown, and honestly, part of me wonders if I have him below Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I would not, just because Amon-Ra St. Brown is such a specific skill set. Like, he's exclusively a slot receiver. A really good one, don't get me wrong. But I think I would have Nico Collins higher than what they did on this list. He was at number 8. I would probably have Nico Collins up there with like CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, kind of in that 3, 4, 5 range.
Yeah, I just, the first thing I thought of when I saw the list was Tyreek's not number 3. And again, with the ball in his hand, I still think he's elite in terms of his speed and his ability to maneuver. But, man, just the role that he plays, like you saw Tyreek significantly struggle when they lost Tua. And I know that says a lot about how Tua is, but we've seen quarterbacks disappear in the past. Like CeeDee Lamb is still very impactful when Dak Prescott has been out with injuries. Same can be said of whatever Minnesota Vikings quarterback is out there with Justin Jefferson. And Jamar Chase just has Joe Burrow. But I don't know. I definitely thought Tyreek was lower than 3.
As I was looking at this list, my biggest takeaway was, oh my God, there are so many good receivers.
I know.
You get to the bottom of this list, it's Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson. That's the bottom half of the top 10. Guys that didn't even make the top 10. Terry McLaurin, who's currently trying to get a contract negotiation with the Washington Commanders, and they're being crazy about this. I don't understand why this is the stance that they're taking, but whatever. Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr., who was really good last year in his rookie season for the Jags, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Devontae Adams. Other guys that are, again, on the outside looking in include Devontae Smith, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I think, Alex, right now, if you're looking around the NFL at which position is the deepest, has the greatest quantity of players that are just at like a B+ level or better, I think it's probably wide receiver.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't think anything's even close to it. I mean, running backs, probably the closest thing.
6 elite guys at the running back position.
Quarterbacks, we talked about that one. And tight end, I mean, I don't think you have
3.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I could hear the argument on maybe lower than 3, but
maybe edge rushers. There's a lot of really good edge rushers in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
I would say that's maybe the closest thing to what we're seeing at the receiver position, probably.
Yeah, but as wide receivers go, this is the best it's been in a long time because every single team has somebody that you look at and you'd be like, man, there's elite stuff right there.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 618. Okay, BK, so Tyreek Hill isn't also one-dimensional. Amon-Ra is better right now. If you told me you can start a team today and you've got to win in 2025, which wide receiver would you rather have, Tyreek Hill or Amon-Ra St. Brown? If I don't know anything else about the way that my roster is constructed, I would take Tyreek Hill. Again, just for 25. If I'm starting a team for future seasons, Amon-Ra because of the age. But for me personally, I am of the opinion that Tyreek is the better player right now.
Yeah.
Next thing that I wanted to get to, Alex, as we continue along, is I do want to talk a little bit about this Terry McLaurin situation. He is coming up on a contract. He's currently trying to get an extension with the Washington Commanders. He spoke to the media yesterday, and they were asking about his contract situation. He basically said, listen, I want to be here. I don't want to go anywhere else. I'm not demanding any kind of a trade or anything. I want to make that very clear, but I'm frustrated because he's been highly productive. He was great last season with their new star-level quarterback, and they're not negotiating in good faith, it seems like. Alex, this is a guy that has 5 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He had 13 touchdowns a year ago. He's 29 years old. He's looking for an extension. Can you think of any reason why the Commanders wouldn't get a deal done with him?
No, because the first thing I thought of was like, okay, well, maybe is there health concerns because he's 29. No, he has started every single game for them in the last 4 years. Yeah. I part of me wonders if this is just Washington being cheap, not wanting to pay him. But I don't know what reason you would have. Every team needs a number one guy. And now, specifically, if you're Washington, that you see the potential with Jay Daniels, there's people talking about him already being a top 5 quarterback. Yep. And if you take Terry McLaurin off of that roster, I don't know if Jaden Daniels is the same guy because you need somebody who can come up with the first downs when you need him to. McLaurin was that dude this season. So I'm a little surprised that they're going down this path because especially when you look around, it's not like there's other guys that just are going to be hitting free agency anytime soon. Yeah. We even saw T. Higgins get paid by Cincinnati.
The value of having a quarterback on a rookie deal is keeping players like Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, trying to win with them.
When you have Jaden Daniels, you can now spend more elsewhere. And this is the exact kind of player that I would be wanting to spend that money on so that way I can maximize the talent that I have at the quarterback position. It's really strange. I think they'll probably eventually get a deal done, but to not have one done now and for Terry McLaurin, who's one of the leaders on that team as well, to come out and say how frustrated he is, openly acknowledging that, it's just a reminder that some teams, it goes beyond just the players, the coaches, anything like that. It goes all the way up to the very top of the organization. And yes, while there has been a change at the leadership with ownership there, it is a new ownership group, and sometimes things get a little wonky when you have a new ownership group.
That's going to be a massive mistake, though, if they decide that they don't want to re-sign him.
In 15 minutes, we started this yesterday. Has the season of Runway been a success, a failure, or has it been incomplete for the outfielders? We did those yesterday. If you want to check our conversation on that, you can do so on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com. The free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. But today we're going to talk about the infielders. We'll give you our thoughts on Nolan Gorman, Mason Wynn, Brendan Donovan. Has this season been a success, a failure, or has it been incomplete on the young infielders that needed the runway? We'll get into that at 12 o'clock. Questions and answers coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. You've got questions. BK and Ferrario may have the answers. Questions and answers presented by Vantage Credit Union. As a local financial partner, Vantage puts your needs first. Membership eligibility required.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. In about 20 minutes or so, we're going to be joined in studio by Chris Kerber. I know many of you have had questions about the broadcasting situations for the St. Louis Blues. And to be frank, we don't have many of those answers. We gave you all of the information that we have last week on the show. As that was announced, Kerbs has more of them, and he wants to talk to you about that stuff coming up in the 12 o'clock hour. So if you have any interest in the Blues broadcasting side of things, or just want to hear us talk about the Blues, we'll do that with Kerbs coming up in the 12 o'clock hour. Stay tuned for that. Be sure to tell all of your friends. All right, right now let's get to questions and answers from the 314. Guys, if somebody came to you and said, you can no longer watch one of the following sports, hockey, baseball, or football ever again, which one would you choose to never watch again and why?
Jeez. If you ask my wife, she would say football. She despises football. Man, this is tough. Hockey obviously is reigning supreme here. It's number one. I think I'd have to get rid of baseball. Much as I love watching the Cardinals, I don't find myself like T-Bone where I'm watching every single baseball game possible, and I really hone in post-trade deadline. So the first part of the season, it's not like football to where as soon as the season begins, I'm locked into the red zone every single Sunday. I'm watching every single Monday night football game. So I think it would have to be baseball.
Hockey for me. So all the same reason.
Makes sense.
Yeah, baseball's never really been my thing too much. I've tried to get into it. It just hasn't really stuck for me. I'll get into playoff baseball once the playoff rolls around. I mean, you can really watch any sport when it comes to playoffs because they all are entertaining. But for me, baseball just doesn't hit the same way hockey and football does.
Yeah. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. Guys, there are some reports that players left the All-Star game early after being subbed out and weren't available for the tiebreaker. What are your thoughts on that? Apparently, this is something that's just always happened. We just didn't know it until yesterday. It was obviously revealed because of the swing-off and some players not being available for said swing-off because they were in like Destin or LA or wherever they decided to go for their 2 days that they get basically following the All-Star game as their break. One, it's kind of disappointing. Just like as a fan of baseball and what I ideally would like to see the All-Star game be, I want it to be a really cool event that players take in and they stick around and hang out, do whatever. So in that respect, it is a little bit disappointing. However, I do get it. I mean, if I put myself in a player's shoes, I'm starting the All-Star game. I've been there for a few days now, right? I've done all of my media obligations. My family has been there with me. I went and participated in the event. I was there for the the home run derby, whether I was participating or just watching. Like, I've been around all of these different events for the last couple of days now. Finally, I get my time to go just hang out with my family, which does not happen much between the months of March until November for most of these guys. I get 2 days to actually go do something with my family. Yeah, I'm probably taking that chance too. And so if they tell me I can leave at 8 o'clock instead of 10, I'd probably do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
disappointing, but I get it.
It's differences of time in life too. Like if you're Pete Crow Armstrong, I'll stay the entire time you want me to. Like this is my break, getting to do this. But yeah, if I'm Brendan Donovan and I have my little baby there and my wife there, as great as it is to be at my first All-Star game, I need that time because you just don't get that time with your family during the season. And I understand it. It sucks to hear, but it's not just the home run derby and the All-Star game, man. They're doing all of these media hits, these interviews, these signings, these appearances. It's nonstop from the moment you hit the All-Star break until the moment you walk off that field at the All-Star game. So I get it. Especially when you just want to just not think about baseball for 2 to 3 days.
I think it's valid for sure from a player's perspective, like you were saying, BK, like only getting a couple days for vacation, only getting a couple days to really be with your family. Like you can sort of sympathize for them and understand that this is their time and they want to take it. But from a fan's perspective, it does kind of give the feeling of, well, if these guys don't care and they're leaving early, why should I care?
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's the one thing from a fan that I kind of feel from a player leaving early from an All-Star game. But at the same time, if you think about it from their perspective, you can understand
It's
it.
the same as the All-Star game in hockey. Like, I mean, Joey and I used to have so many conversations about, like, when Ovechkin would opt out or when certain guys, and it's like, man, if the superstars in your game don't want to go to this, why should I pay any attention to it?
And I also put myself in their shoes, and I get it.
Totally.
Right? Like, if you want to just focus on your health, or you want to take, you know what, this is my 1 week from March to November where I actually get to just like go to a beach somewhere and sit and do freaking nothing. That's awesome.
Yep.
That's like a cool, on a human level, thing for you to be able to do. So I understand. I mean, Alex, you just did this with your family.
Yep.
It's great, right? Like, time to just reset and take some time to yourself. That's, in my opinion, super important. Beyond just being like something that's cool to do, it's a very important thing for you to be able to reset yourself mentally, physically, emotionally. So, but anyways, all right, from the 636, guys with Carbonneau projected to be a hard-nosed winger. Do you think it makes Neighbors more expendable in a Bowen Byram type of a trade? Personally, I still wouldn't do it, but I was curious your thoughts.
No, I think it's the reason you were willing to listen on the Bolduc trade, because you feel like you have guys who can score goals like Bolduc can. Snuggerud's one-timer, Jordan Kyrie's wrist shot. You got a couple of other guys in your system that have supposedly elite shots. You don't have guys that play to the same level as Jake Neighbors. And frankly, you need more Jake Neighbors on your team in playoff style. So, no, I don't think anybody makes Neighbors expendable. I think Carbonneau's projection, and projection's the big word here, because, I mean, he could still be a couple of years away before you even talk about the NHL. That's where you got to the point where it's like, can we be okay with trading Bolduc if we've got these guys free agency and these younger players in our system?
I agree with you. I think this is a situation where if you are looking at Hockey Reference and you're looking at statistics, you can say, okay, I can see how Jake Neighbors could be an expendable player. Like, not that he has bad stats, but he has replaceable stats. Like, you could replace him with another player and you could probably get the same production out of him. But if you think about, the locker room and the overall team morale, and you lose a player like that, and everybody knows how Jake Neighbors is, how much he's loved in that locker room. That is the type of player that you take that player out, you trade that player, and it can just crash the entire locker room. Like, it kind of reminds me, wasn't it Barclay Goodrow in New York with the Rangers? I mean, they went as the President's Trophy team to missing the playoffs and being a dumpster fire last year.
And that was a trajectory where it was Goodrow, then it was Trouba, then it was the Kreider rumors. Like, It went quick.
Yeah, and so I think about Jake Neighbors, and I think about that being potentially a similar situation where you have a player that, I mean, people are talking about him in his first 2 years being a future captain because of how he is in the locker room and everything. You can understand where you pull that player out and the locker room just falls apart.
I think the conversation around Jake Neighbors and Brendan Donovan are very similar. In terms of what they bring to the table. They're just really high-level players, but they're not elite. Neither of them are elite level players. Like, Jake Neighbors will probably not be a top 6 player in an ideal scenario for the Blues this
He's
year.
not going to be an all-star.
No. But, like, even if he was, right, like, it's the bar to clear is lower for baseball than it is for the NHL. But, like, Jake Neighbors is probably a third-line winger for you long-term. There's nothing wrong with that. That's probably what he is. In an ideal world, Brendan Donovan is probably like the 5th best player on a championship caliber team. So kind of similar to what Jake Neighbors is for the Blues. And yet both hold a very significant place within their respective locker rooms. So it becomes this question of, like, what is the value of that?
Yeah.
What is the value of a third line winger that holds sway in the locker room? What is the value of a second baseman that hits for average, doesn't hit for a lot of pop, but does, like, all of the things right? He plays the right way, right? And also holds that sway in the locker room. What's the value of that, especially when you have somebody coming in the Cardinals situation, JJ Weatherholt, or in the Blues situation, in Dalibor Dvorsky and in Justin Carbonneau? It's eerily similar spot for both of those players.
And to Grant's point, too, like, Chris Kreider's another really good example. Like, Kreider was kind of the heartbeat of that team and the Rangers for the longest time. He was a power forward. He was always a guy that scored you maybe 20 to 25 goals until he pops off and gives you 52 and 36 and 38. That's what power forwards do. They're consistent in terms of, we'll give you 20, but one season might be the bounces going my way and I'll give you 45, but the same style is there every single game, and that's what's important for a team.
Also a guy that was, second, third line winger, and then eventually got more opportunities later into his 20s, early 30s, and that's when he popped. He was playing, 18, 19 minutes a night, but he didn't get there until he was 30 years old.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Neighbors will ever be that, and there's no harm in saying that he doesn't, but that was what took place for him to get there.
The difference is, like, snipers can go through scoring droughts. Power forwards play the same way, and you need some of those guys to keep everyone on the same level.
He's Alex Ferrario. That is Grant Francis. I'm Brandon Kiley. Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues, will join us in studio coming up at 12:15. He'll be in for a couple of segments. We're going to talk to him about the Blues, of course, but also about the broadcast situation for the Blues. It was announced last week that they're going in a new direction. They're going to have the simulcast moving forward. It will be Kerbs and Joey on the call. We don't have a lot of answers on a lot of this stuff, so Kerbs does. He is more involved, obviously, on a day-to-day basis with the broadcast side of things, so he will be in to answer some of the questions that you may have about that. That's coming up at 12:15. Be sure to stay tuned for that. Coming up next, has the season of Runway been a success, a failure, or has it been incomplete for some of the infielders? We're going to talk about Nolan Gorman, Mason Wynn, and Yvonne Herrera coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
This is exactly where you want to be, listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Kerber is the voice of the Blues. He's going to be joining us in studio in a little more than 10 minutes. Alex, the Blues have just announced their 2025 season schedule. I know this is something you are certainly interested in as somebody that is the pre, post, and intermission host for the Blues on the radio side of things here on 101 ESPN. I will read you some of the highlights from the St. Louis Blues. Again, 2025-26 season has officially been announced. You can check this out if you want to see the full schedule. It's on our Twitter account at 101 ESPN and also the Blues Twitter account as well. Opening night will be on October the 9th against the Minnesota Wild. Do you like that as the choice? Grant, want to get your thoughts on this as well?
Perfect decision to go with a team that I think a lot of people despise in Minnesota. And the teams don't like each other. So, yep, started with a Central Division rivalry game.
I agree. And it's the first time in a couple of years, right, that the first game is at home?
Yeah.
So I like that as well.
They mostly started on the road the last few years.
16 total home games on Friday or Saturday nights. You'll have 6 of them on Fridays, 10 of them on Saturdays, which is always great for Blues fans. Those are the ideal nights to get out there to Enterprise Center. Season begins with 7 of 11 October games at Enterprise Center, so the early portion of the season is very home friendly. 5 of the Saturday home games will feature a 6 p.m. puck drop. Like those,
we like that. We love that. Grant and I, there's a few things that make Grant and I very happy, and it's 6 o'clock puck drops on the weekends and maybe the occasional afternoon puck drop on a Sunday.
The season finale will be on April 16th at Utah. Alex, on the late game side of things, how are we looking this year?
We are looking at 5 9 o'clock or later games, and all of them are in the back half of the season.
How are the back-to-backs looking for you?
That's the part that when you said the highlights, the first thing I looked at was, son of a nutcracker, there's 11 back-to-backs. We had 9 last year.
Was there anything else about the schedule that when you looked at it for the first time really stood out to you?
The homestands, they don't really have that long of homestands. There's 4 separate 4-game homestands, and I think they have a few, 2 or 3 5-game road trips. So not as many homestands, but like you mentioned, you start off the season early with a lot of games at home versus on the road, which I was telling you guys in break. Win a lot of the games in the early portion of the season because the back half after the Olympics, you're on the road. Not the most ideal of scenarios playing in those games.
Talk about this a little bit more with Chris Kerber coming up in studio here in just a little bit. All right, on the Cardinals side of things, yesterday, Alex, we did our Cardinals outfielder runway season, whether they were a success, failure, or somewhere in the incomplete range. We talked about Nootbaar, Burleson, Victor Scott, and Jordan Walker. If you guys missed any of those conversations, you can check it on the podcast page from yesterday. Today, I want to get to the infielder side of things, and I'm going to include Ivan Herrera, even though he's, kind of an outfielder now, I guess.
No, he's not. He's not a catcher. He's not an outfielder. We don't know what he is.
He's DH, if nothing else.
Yeah, sure.
Right, let's start out with Mason Wynn. Has this season, in your estimation, Alex, been a success, a failure, or has it been incomplete for Mason Wynn in the runway season category?
Man, I originally wanted to say a success because I kind of felt I kind of felt
You're
like
waffling.
Yeah, well, it's because I felt like last season was a success. It's like I knew what he was, but then the more you look at it, I guess I would have to say an incomplete, just because I wanted to find out, were you a impact core piece of the team? And although I think the answer to that is yes, I mean, offensively, his numbers haven't been overwhelmingly great. Now, he's been consistent. He's had his dry spells, but it's not like I look at Mason Wynn and say, cool, put him in pen every single game in this spot of the lineup. So I guess I would say an incomplete. You're still hoping to see that consistency by the end of the season.
Interesting. I would go the other direction. I would say it's been a success, and I think we know what Mason Wynn is at this point. I think he is an average offensive player. There's nothing wrong with that. I am not saying that to diminish what Mason Wynn is. I think there's value in having an average offensive player who's a Gold Glove defender at shortstop.
Yeah.
He had some value on the bases, not as many steals as I think maybe some of us were anticipating coming into his career, but he's a guy that had speed on the base paths, if nothing else. And maybe most importantly, he is not like many of the other Cardinals players. Jordan Walker comes to mind, Dylan Carlson, Nolan Gorman, others that come in, have this great rookie season, and then immediately fall flat on their faces in year 2.
Yeah.
It's been a little less productive than it was a year ago. But it's not anything that's like, man, smacking you in the face. This has been flat out bad. I think we know what Mason Wynn is. An average bat, a plus defender at shortstop. There's value in that. I would say it's been a success in just about every area, honestly.
Yeah, and the other factor that I didn't mention that I could lean into this as, I mean, the one question I had was, is this back thing going to be an issue for him long term? And he has not had injury problems this season, so that pushes you a little bit more in line of success. But you could sway me on that one. I could see the success factor.
All right, on the other side of things, Ivan Herrera, I don't know how you could possibly say that this season has been a failure for him, so let's throw that out of the way. But has it been a success or incomplete? I think those two are very much in play. For me, it's been a success in two areas, Alex. One, the bat is real. Like, there's no question in my mind now what the level of success is going to be long-term for his bat. We'll see, but I think this is a 20-plus home run guy that can hit in the 300 range long-term. There's real value in having that kind of a bat in the middle of your order, and there's value in knowing he's not a catcher. Like, I think that sometimes we can overstate things with the defensive prowess, all of that stuff behind the plate. Ivan Herrera's just not a catcher. That's okay. I'm not going to push back against it any longer. He's long-term going to be a DH, maybe a corner outfielder. Maybe you can bump him over to first base, depending on what the future looks like with Wilson Contreras. But part of this season was not only about finding what the upside is of some of these players, it's also about finding, all right, there were these deficiencies. Are these issues long-term, or is it just kind of a young player kind of a thing? Ivan Herrera has deficiencies defensively, and I don't think they're going to be fixed behind the plate. So it's been a success in my mind in a multiple different aspects. How would you define his season this year? Incomplete or success?
Yeah, it's success. I don't see anything with him that's an incomplete, because I know he's not a catcher, and they just got to decide, do we play him at DH? Where do we find the right spot for Herrera? Please don't be the outfield. I just think he's an everyday DH for you with the occasional start somewhere else. But the offense was the biggest thing that I view it as a success. You found an impact bat. I guess if you want to go incomplete, you're worried what the consistency is in terms of staying healthy, but I don't think that's a concern right now when you're talking about a 25-year-old. So Herrera, glowing numbers, I'd say a success.
Somebody on the text line, Danny Beefcake, said he's Kyle Schwarber. Very well might be. Schwarber at one point was a catching prospect. He since has obviously transitioned to the outfield/DH. He's not a plus defender in the outfield, but you can throw him out there if you need to. He could be like a fourth outfielder that starts occasionally. Most of the time, he's going to get his opportunities as a designated hitter, and he's so good offensively that you live with it, clogging up the DH spot. I think there's some truth to that for Ivan Herrera. The last one that I wanted to get to before Chris Kerber joins us on the other side, has this season of Runway been a success, a failure, or has it been incomplete for Nolan Gorman?
I'd say it's a failure.
Interesting, okay.
And it probably should be an incomplete because they didn't play him a lot early on, and now that they're playing him a lot, you kind of see that, look, that the power's real. It's just a matter of getting him consistent. But to me, I have the answer of him, and you're just not a consistent player for me. I've got other guys that can play that role, whether it's Brennan Donovan, whether it's Weatherholt, whether it's Sajasi. I know your bat is lethal when you're right, but I also know you go through a lot of dry spells. So to me, I'd say it's a failure. I've got my answer, which I guess, as we argued yesterday, could also be considered a success.
I would still say incomplete on him because I don't know what he is, where he fits into your plans, how you value what he is. I think what you said is probably right. He's a very inconsistent player that if he played 162 games, you're probably getting 30-plus home runs out of him. But do you want him playing 162 games or anything approaching 162 games? He's an average bat right now, below average defender. How do you value that within the context of the team that you currently have? I truly do not know, Alex. I do not know, especially with Ivan Herrera now getting an extended runway as your designated hitter every day. He hits the ball hard. He hits it in the air more often than not. He swings and misses still a whole heck of a lot. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Nolan Gorman. Out of all of the players that had a quote-unquote runway season in front of them, he is the one that I am still struggling with the most as to how he fits into your plans, because there was a conversation yesterday online, on the radio, etc., basically going into who is most likely to be the next Cardinals home run derby participant. And the truth is, they don't really have anybody at the big league level or in the system other than Nolan Gorman that could ever project to being that. So if you don't have that kind of pop anywhere in your system, you kind of do have to value it because you are lacking real home run threats in your lineup. But where does he play? How does he fit? Is he more valuable for you on the trade market than he is here? All of these are still questions to me that I don't have the answer to. So I would have to say it's incomplete for Nolan Gorman. And I do think he would be one of my top priorities the rest of the season to figure out how he fits into things.
And that's where it gets hard, because I don't know how you're going to do that in terms of what position he's going to play, with Herrera being the DH, which you cannot, that's where you stand, you cannot end the season with an incomplete with him. You have to have answers at the end of this season for Nolan Gorman.
He's Alex Ferrario. That is Grant Francis. I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues, in studio. He's going to join us to obviously talk about the Blues, everything like that. We'll get some of your questions in on the Air Comfort Service text line at 314-399-9646. But do want to talk to him about the changes that are taking place with the broadcast this year. They're going to a simulcast, which means the same broadcast that you hear right here on your home of the Blues 101 ESPN will also be the broadcast this season on FanDuel Sports Midwest. What went into some of those decisions? What's that going to sound like on the broadcast for fans at home? And as a broadcaster that's always done this on the radio, what is this going to be like for Chris Kerber to now also be voicing the TV call? We'll talk about all of that with Kerbs next here on 101 ESPN.
It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Grant Francis, I'm Brandon Kiley. Happy to be joined in studio on schedule release day by the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Kerbs, how you doing, man?
I'm awesome. 10 Saturday night home games. 24, I think it is, games between Thursday, Friday, Saturday for home games. I haven't, obviously, the schedule was released, 2 hours ago. I haven't been able to dig too deep into it. But I like some of the road trips. I like, once again, the team's on the road. I'd love at some point in time to see the team not be on the road quite as much in that March to April thing. But when you're able to host such a great event like Arch Madness and stuff, things like that, and you're able to bring in things like wrestling championships and events like that is part of it. So I'm excited. I love the fact that it's a home opener this year.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what we were talking about.
There's a lot to enjoy, I think, with this upcoming schedule.
I enjoy that all the 9 o'clock games are in the last couple of months of the season, and the 11 back-to-backs. I think it's 6 before Christmas and then 5 after Christmas.
You know, the back-to-backs are an interesting thing because you can go back just a few years, and we've had as many as 16, 17, 18 sets of back-to-backs.
Yeah.
And it's not so much the back-to-backs that are the problem. These guys are pretty good, so well-conditioned guys. Yes, the travel is impactful because unlike you're not in baseball, you're in the same city 3 days, right?
Right.
I mean, you're literally traveling day to day to day. But it's when the back-to-backs bookend, say, 3 during the week, and all of a sudden that becomes the 6 and 9, right? Mm-hmm. The 5 and 8. It's that stretch there. To only have 10 sets or 10 or 11 sets of back-to-backs in a year where you're breaking 2 weeks for Olympics, really quite good.
And they spread them out, which I thought was important because in this past season, October to November, they played like the most games of any team in the National Hockey League by like 3 or 4. And they had 3 or 4 sets of back-to-backs early on, where if you spread them out, you're not worrying about that wear and tear as early on in the season.
Well, one of the great challenges the NHL has, as you guys know, is, unlike baseball, like the Cardinals are right now expecting to have their schedule for next season. They typically would have had it by now. They don't have it yet, okay? Or it's close, right? Hockey, it's July and the season starts in September. The challenge that you have, even more so outside of St. Louis, in L.A., right? You've got NBA teams, you've got WNBA teams, you've got NHL teams, you've got concerts, and those concerts, those things are real important to organizations' bottom lines too, right? So you've got to figure out how you work that in. Like I was just talking Arch Madness, things like that here. We've got the skating championships coming up, right? Here in St. Louis. So you look at those factors that go into planning the schedule when it comes to an NHL team. To manage that is such a challenge, and how you get it to work. So there will be tweaks, and there have been tweaks to this one before it got released. But to be able to spread things out, the one thing that's baffling to me is what I never like to see. 2 things I don't like to see, but you see it naturally because of the scheduling. One, I really don't like being done with, and I haven't looked at this one to figure this out, done with a divisional opponent by November or December. I think divisional games really need to somehow be parsed out throughout the season because those are impactful.
We see that with the Cardinals where they didn't play the Cubs until June or something.
Right. We've had years where we've been done with Nashville before the end of November, and one year we didn't start playing them until January, right? Yeah. Or we had 4 games against them in like the last 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Yeah. The other thing from a scheduling standpoint that I'm not I just don't know how some teams get 4 or 5 games ahead in terms of games played than other teams. You're talking a week and a half's worth of games. Calgary was a great example. Now, Calgary had the 1 game postponed in L.A. last year because of the fires. But aside from that, they had to make up like the 5 games played in a 3-week stretch at the end of the year. And that's one where the Matrix all of a sudden blows my mind. I go, I think I'll just stick to Colin.
I'll wait for the analytics to come out on that one a little bit later on.
All right, Kerbs. So I do want to talk a little bit about the offseason with you. We're going to get some questions from the audience as well in our next segment, if you're cool with that. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. As we're talking about the schedule, that brings into account the broadcast, right?
Right.
It's going to be different this year. The Blues announced this last week, where it is going to be a simulcast with yourself and Joey Vitale on the call, and that will be both on the radio side of things and now on the television side of things as well. I'll leave this a little open-ended for you because you certainly know more about this than I do as somebody that's involved with it. What is that going to be like for you, for somebody watching at home? What is this change going to be like?
A little bit of we're going to figure it out together. I think if you, and this is probably getting way more technical on a broadcast side, but if I
think people are interested in this.
If I look at, there's different styles and different ways that people call games. And if we talk TV and radio, yes, you want to be more descriptive on radio. You are the eyes and the ears. Okay. On TV, you don't have to. You know, on TV, you might have to pull away from some of that a little bit, you know, because people also don't need you saying kaboom, kaboom, kaboom over to this guy. This is exactly where it is because they can see that. Where is that balance? It's a great question. We're going to find it. We'll find it quick, I really do believe. But I'm not sure just yet. What I would say, at least my initial thoughts, my early thoughts on this process is I think Joe and I on the radio side probably had a call that lended a little bit more towards a TV style of call. We weren't quite as, you know, hard-lined about Joey getting out before every single face-off. You know, we weren't as hard-lined about me following the play till right with a whistle. Once we could see a puck's getting dumped out, if I stopped talking, Joe jumped in, gave him more time to do his thing. Because I also think just puck to puck for 82 games would just drive anybody nuts, right? So you got to bring the entertainment value in there, and that's where we know the moments. I mean, you almost never missed a goal, right? There's going to be some times where maybe you're carrying something a little long into a faceoff and you get like the quick Tucker goal like you had in, okay? What does that mean on the TV side? I think the one thing I do think, now this is just my philosophy on this, is I do think that if there is a sport where more of a radio style call is better for TV than the other sports, it's hockey. You don't see the puck coming along the near boards. The fans, depending on your camera angle, can stand up and block the glass. The game is so fast. Numbers, you know, who to see who's got it. And how do we know this? Well, because now on power plays, right, you'll see teams on graphics put an arrow above the guy with their names, okay? So depending on the moment, there are going to be moments, I think, on the TV side where it's all Joe, right? Yeah. There will be tense moments in a game. Let's say the last few minutes of a game, overtime, whatever, where the drama of the game really dictates what the call is, and maybe that's more me. You know, like they call the final few minutes of a game or overtime when Doc Emmerich was doing. They used to call it like Doc time because like get out of the way, let this great do his thing. So. There's that side of it. I do think, like, and here's the other thing, BK, when it comes to this, it's not like we're trying to slip one past the goalie here and say, you know, we're going to make it seem like we're not doing one or the other. So I think from a listener standpoint, there's probably going to have to be a little bit of that understanding too. Like, okay, maybe they're a little too descriptive on this one on a TV side. Oh yeah, but you know, for the folks that are, you know, driving to their school function for their kids or something like that, they're listening, they get that. And then I think that same thing on the radio side too. Like if, you know, look, we've used replay on radio for a long time. Sometimes as a radio guy, you say, man, we just saw the replay, or hey, we're looking at a replay. Mm-hmm. Using words like that help kind of bridge the gap to those that are seeing and those that aren't. And we just have to figure that out.
For you, Kerbs, I mean, you've been doing radio for the Blues over 20 years, but your entire career has been radio broadcast. How much of this changes for you in terms of the dynamic on television now for radio?
I think kind of to what I just said, that you want to make sure you listen to those that know more, listen and learn. I mean, yeah, look, I've been doing radio for the Blues for 25 years and did 6 years in the minors before that. Have done a couple of TV games, you know, mixed in there at those different levels as well. I will rely on a lot of people that have a lot more experience, right? Yeah. And listen and do what, I mean, you know, I've done this. Like I'll reach out to to John Rooney, and say, hey, can you listen to some upcoming games and tear it up for me, break it, like doing all this. Like, I want people to do that. And then, because as a broadcaster, you guys know us doing show, you can find yourself getting into ruts, right? How do I keep these things fresh? Right. And so, like anything, any part of the world that we live in or anything we do, from parenting to work to whatever, if you think you know it, right, you're going to get humbled fast. So, technically there will be some things, but here's what I don't think. Here's what is not going to change, Alex. And you've been a part of these broadcasts for a long time. How we work them, how we deal with the people, the level of excitement. We're going to get excited sometimes. We're going to lose our marbles. Okay, I don't think that part's going to be able to be out
Grant's
of me.
favorite part of the broadcast,
right? I mean, and so I'm looking forward. It will bring that same kind of level of excitement, energy, and entertainment now to both sides, and we'll find that sweet spot of what's really working for both.
Have you seen other markets where this has worked? And if so, what about it worked for them? And have you reached out to any of these people to find out, all right, like, this is something that we tried that didn't necessarily go the way that we wanted, but this thing that we tried also worked out really well. What is that like when you look to those other markets that have maybe done something similar?
Well, you got a market like the Dallas Stars that have done this pretty much since they moved down to Dallas, right? Nashville did it for a while, so you reach out to Pete Weber. Now, they don't do it that way anymore, right? How did you do it? What did you do? I think the LA Kings did it for a couple of years. I don't remember if they did it that way last year or may have split back a little bit. And some of that reasoning is not because it didn't work. Some of that reasoning is there are different unique challenges to each market, and how you different radio deals, different scenarios, different formats, all those kind of things. The Buffalo Sabres have done this for a long time as well. The New York Islanders, I think, are going to start doing it. It's a tough, difficult trend, and we can talk about it, because it does cut down to one broadcast team, and we know the impact of that. But, I just think if you take the care, trust your knowledge of the business, the industry, how to do things, I think you make it work, where I think the experience is going to be really good on both sides, because we're going to make it that way. I mean, now you've been around us a long time. You know the work that goes on behind the scenes, right? And that stuff's not going to change.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest, because of course this news came out when I was on vacation up in Michigan, and Katie's family was up there, and so I had hundreds of different people coming up to me going, "It's like, oh my gosh, what's this change for you on the radio side? Does it change the elements of the pre games and the post games and things like that?" And I was kind of a shoulder shrug emoji, but I essentially told him, it's like, look, there's one thing I know for certain: Curbs and Joey are the same person on a radio that they are off radio. And I said the element of the broadcasts are going to remain the same. It's just once the game starts, you're getting Curbs and Joey on both spectrums.
Can I ask about that, though? Because I am curious, and it's something that we're getting a lot on the text line.
Sure.
How does this work with pre-games for you guys now? Because I know previously, whenever I would fill in for Alex, or if I'm listening, like, Alex introduces, you've got the local stuff, and then we go to network, and a lot of that pregame show is you and Joey.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot more BK on the pregame shows and postgame shows. You guys, you and Tanner and stuff in the playoffs were fantastic. No, listen.
But in all seriousness, what does that look like?
It's a fair question.
For you guys?
The straightforward answer is, we don't know for sure yet.
Okay, good answer from me then.
Well, guys, I'm also curious.
We don't know for sure yet. Here's what I can tell you. When you get into the periods themselves, the game format is the game format. You take your commercial breaks here and here, right? Look, there's nothing that says on radio you actually have to take those commercial breaks. You can work in things. It just depends on how it's sold, right? It can be a blank canvas. So how does the pregame and stuff work? Will I be available? Will Joe be available for some of it, for part of it? We have to figure that out. I see scenarios, especially since 101 has always done a 1 hour pregame show. I see scenarios where we might be able to join for part of it. Or maybe, frankly, part of that pregame is at 5:45, we're recording with Alex for 10 minutes on a segment. Okay, so there is that part of it. How it's going to work with postgame are my favorite part of the broadcast, those interviews with Steve Ott after the game,
absolutely.
Right? I don't know. Maybe that's Alex. Still doing that, with Grant and Jordan and our great crew. Maybe that's so. Those are the little details that'll be worked out. It's not going to change the fact that there's still an hour-long pregame here on 101. It's not going to change the fact that there's an extended postgame, right? What's yet to be determined is what are the roles that Joe and I might have on pre and post because they want to be more dynamic with the pre-games and post-games on TV, is what we've been told. And again, that's the vision. What is the actual interpretation and how do you put it? That remains to be seen. So there might be some jumping around back and forth like our draft show, into the stage, back out to the show, right? Things like that.
Good content.
So formatting, I think, will stay same. I think there's some great synergies. You know, obviously there will be opportunities now for the listeners on 101 to, I think, hear more Bernie. If we tie in pre and post and opportunities, and that's yet to be talked about. Obviously, Chris Pronger is going to become a part of this at some point in time. The amazing work that Scotty Warman's put in over the years. Andy Strickland's role is going to be increased. There's going to be a lot of things that allow the Blues, when you look at the entire stable of what they're putting in terms of the people and the personnel, and then you look at the openness for synergies that did not exist under the previous FanDuel management that does exist now. I think there's a lot for a hockey fan and a sports fan in St. Louis to be patient, breathe, but I think there's a lot of positives that we'll be able to pull together for people.
I'm a logistics guy, so I'm curious about this. Have you guys talked about whether Joey will continue to be in the booth with you or if he'll potentially go down between the benches and what that looks like?
Remains to be seen. Which I realize I'm not doing you any good with direct answers here. But, those conversations haven't had to happen. I will tell you that, look, there's different philosophies. There's different philosophies when it comes to that, okay? I will tell you that I think it's invaluable to have a former player like him, like Panger, like Jamie was, in between the benches, okay? I don't have not seen the same value as, say, a reporter. Some of the major networks have put a reporter between the benches, right? I like what TNT has done, where it's Brian Boucher between the benches with Eddie Olczyk up high. There is a lot to be said for the chemistry and continued communication of a play-by-play guy and his partner to be sitting next to each other, right? If you're going to put somebody between the benches, and remember, we had Chaser between the benches on the radio for a long time.
Phenomenal.
Okay? That person has to be in tune with what's going on, and you've got to take advantage of that. They've got to be listening. Panger was excellent with it, right? Jamie did a very good job. Excellent down there. Hey, this is what's going on, right? You don't need a third person on your broadcast team between the benches to relay a story that they learned at the morning skate, if that makes sense. There's value to those stories. That's not the position where they need to come in on unless something brings it in. You want somebody going, hey, the referee just came by and said this. The whole point of somebody between the benches is to bring the on-ice game closer through the broadcast. How that's going to work out in this case, I know this. The visiting guys are never between the benches like they used to be. So on the road, Joey will be next to me. How that remains to be seen in terms of home. Some, all, I don't know. Those are decisions that are honestly going to be made a good chunk above my pay grade here.
Man, you know what I was just thinking of? I can
hamburger.
I can come up with so many nicknames now, and Curbs can't say anything to me.
No. Listen. Grant's still a part of things. George's still a part of things. I will hear every single time you try to name a line.
I'm going to have to pay them off.
Don't worry about it.
I'll have to pay them off. The broadcast booth, we'll nickname it.
You're not rich enough.
That's true. I'm not.
Curbs, we've got a break that we've got to do. We've got a double break here. We've got the junk drawer coming up next. Do you mind if we keep you around for a little bit?
I'm good.
All right, we're going to get some of your questions. I know you guys have a lot of them. You've been asking them of me and Alex, and frankly, we don't have many of the answers. So when we have Curbs in studio, I want to give you the opportunity to ask some of these questions. The YouTube chat is available for you. Curbs is in studio if you want to watch over there. YouTube.com/101 ESPN STL, or on the chat as well. You can get your text in 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. We'll get some of your questions from the audience for Chris Kerber next year on 101 ESPN.
All right, I'm sitting here in the studio at 101 ESPN, sitting next to my good buddy Alex Ferrario. He uses Classic Air Care. We use Classic Air Care. Make sure that you use them as well. So right now, your air conditioner might be running perfectly fine. No problem. You're going, okay, I don't need to be listening to this. No, here's why I want you to listen to this. Next week, it might not be running fine. You know, a month from now, it might start making some sounds when August is beating down on it. Get a hold of Classic Air Care. Set them up with an appointment to come in and maintain the unit now if you didn't do it. Look, if you were listening to us all along, you maintained your unit at the beginning of the year. You're doing the most important thing you can do and change that air filter. Fantastic. Now you know that if something goes wrong, you can call these guys in. They're going to take care of you with a 4.8 Google rating, quality service. They've got technicians that have as much as 40 years or more of experience working in the area and all types of units. It's Classic Air Care. Whether you need them now, whether you need them later, keep them front of mind for you. Classic Air Care. You can reach them online at classicaircare.com. They've been making people comfortable since 1926.
Greg Francis here with a SportsCenter update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, after finishing in a 6-6 tie after 9 innings, the NL beats the AL in the home run derby. Not in the home run derby, it was a home run swing-off in the All-Star game. That was the decider last night as the NL took down the AL. MLB will return to normal action on Friday as the Cardinals will head to Arizona to start a 3-game series with the Diamondbacks. I'm Grant Francis. The SportsCenter update's been brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Grant Francis, I'm Brandon Kiley. Normally, we'd be doing the junk drawer today. We are doing something a little bit different. Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues, is joining us in studio for a little bit of time here. Got about 10 minutes left with him. We will talk to J.J. Cooper of Baseball America. He'll break down the Cardinals draft for us coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. But Kerbs, did want to get some questions from the audience. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Kerbs is as open and honest as they come. So if you guys have any questions, he'll shoot it straight. If you guys have a question, get them in. We'll ask them of Kerbs here on the show. And speaking of shooting it straight, I do want to ask you, a big part of this is John Kelly is no longer going to be a part of the broadcasts. You've been around the Blues for 20-plus years. You grew up watching this team as well. The Kelly name certainly has a lot of resonation with you, along with this audience in general. So for you, I'll just give you the open-ended opportunity. What would you like to say about whether it's JK's time with the Blues, what this is like from that side of things for you? I'll leave it open-ended for you, Kerbs.
Well, look, this is that's the difficult part here. That is the single most difficult part here with this. When I was called and was told this is the direction we want to go, will you do this? Of course, you say yes. You have to say yes, right? But like guys, I've always brought to the microphone the human aspect of sports. That's why I don't delve a lot in trade rumors and things. And as we've talked about, and this is one, but this is one that's frankly very difficult for me too, because I consider John a very, very good friend. The time in the last 20 years on these trips and on the broadcast with him, good stretch in there. He and I were at lunch together every day. You talk about life, you talk about your kids, you talk about family. Sometimes you talk about a lot of that stuff more. Great dinners on the road, great beers on the road. Sometimes you spend a lot of times in the season, there'll be stretches where you will see the people you travel with more than you see your family, and the camaraderie is very important. And I've said this since day one here. When Chase was with us and Panger and Joey and now John and everybody that's been involved, like if there was a broadcaster or media travel group Olympics, I'll tell you for the last 25 years, I think that we are easily, most of the time I'd say we could take gold, right? But in case somebody had a good lucky year, I still put us on the medal, stand, because of the quality. And that's the Timmy Paps, the Phil Molikas, and those kind of people that travel with us too. I have nothing but complete admiration for John Kelly. I have nothing but complete respect for John Kelly. I think track record clearly and easily shows that. The utmost respect for not just John, but the name, the heritage, what they meant to this franchise. And I have always believed that from day one when I got this job, that our job is to uphold the great standard from a Blues broadcast standpoint that Dan Kelly and then Ken Wilson set on the radio side. And yes, there were other people in there that, did some broadcasts, but those were the two main guys. The way I see it now is, that obligation hasn't changed. John brought a level of excellence. John brought a level of professionalism. John brought a level of care that is unmatched and Hall of Fame level. I do believe he will, receive that honor by the Hall of Fame, and he and his dad will be in there together as the first father-son tandem in the NHL to have that. And I believe that to be sooner than later, and I've said that a lot of times as well. So our job is to now take that standard that John was a massive part of ingraining into fans and uphold it, and then and take it and make sure that we are great stewards of what he's done. And I'm not also oblivious to the fact that I think fans on TV are very used to his style, very used to his call, very comfortable with it. Sure. It's a very personal business. You have to invite somebody into your home, your TV, your car. When you listen to broadcasting, you're making choices. And my style is different. So I understand that there's probably going to be some growing pains from a listener's side for some on that too, but I know that we're going to take care of this the way he did, and John will always be a part of this franchise from that standpoint. I can't imagine how difficult this. I can't imagine exactly how difficult this decision was for the people that made it, and I can tell you now, my conversations and contacts with John, I'll keep between me and him, obviously, and respect that. But I think absolutely nothing but love and care for him. His tremendous family. Jennifer's amazing. They're 3 kids. Patrick, Megan, Grace. You can't be oblivious to the fact that even the family themselves is saying, "Hey, what happened or what's gone on?" And I get it. But I can tell you that from my own personal level, that that'll be handled with the same respect that I have always handled things with them and everybody, and for that matter. And, we turn the page at some point and we move on and do our jobs on the broadcast. But the impact of this decision isn't lost on me.
That's another question that we've seen a lot come in. Curbs on the text line just asking, is this a team decision? Is this a FanDuel Sports Midwest decision? Or was it a combination of both?
Well, listen, I was not part of the decision-making process. Okay, I was not, pulled in and said, "What do you think?" or any of that kind of stuff. The vice president of broadcasting duties that I have had have been taken over by other people, and those pretty much have been put aside about 3 years ago. But no decision like this is made without pretty much, I would think, everything from Blues ownership down knowing about it. It's a joint decision that obviously had to be talked about between FanDuel and the team. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, John Kioski and Tommy Mattern here because of, what it means for how we're going to make things work. So I don't believe, I don't believe that this was anyone, hey, this is what I want and this is the way it's going to go. I think there had to be a lot of moving parts to this and in a joint fashion.
We've had a lot of people ask something to the effect of, will the Curbside podcast still be available post-game? Yes. Is that something that people will be able to listen to?
We are still going to keep the Curbside podcast rolling. And big, huge thank you to Grant Francis. He and Jordan were massive to helping, because the first year I was doing that editing while we're trying to take off on a plane and stuff, and we got the formatting down where, and the great thing about when you work with, and you guys know this with Grant, Tanner, anybody, any of the, like, They take it and they made it their own. He's like, well, what do you want to do with this? I go, I don't know, Grant. Make it yours. Fix it. Do what you want. So, yes, the Curbside podcast is still going to be going.
Have you done... This is my question. This is not from the listeners. We got most of the questions that I think... I think in some way, shape, or form, we have represented most of the questions that I've seen on the text line.
Yeah, well, you know what I had real quick for you?
Yeah.
Listen, once you get past the difficult part... Okay, and I'm not saying we are past it or we should be or fans should be, right? As I said, I'm very in tune to what this means and the impact on a personal and a professional level. Once we do start planning and we do get into this, I think there's a lot of excitement for fans to come. When you consider the entire stable, right? Scotty Warman, is going to be the primary host. Okay, here's a guy that has worked with, he's been part of Blues broadcast since we were on KTRS my first year 25 years ago, right? Just constantly nose to the grindstone, despite having opportunity taken away from him, and just a great team guy in it and excellent. Tied into Blues history. You still have Bernie Federico, Jamie Rivers, right? In-value experience of the last 2 years traveling and seeing that side is going to make him even better to what was already doing an excellent job when he was filling in. I had a friend of mine last night said, hey, the one thing I'm going to miss about Jamie is I really loved the way he got into the technical side of stuff, right? He's going to have that opportunity again, and I'm glad he's still part of it, because of that. You're talking about the addition of Chris Pronger, right? Andy Strickland's going to be doing some the team hasn't traveled a reporter or a sideline person, since Jim Hayes, 10-something years ago. And, the Cardinals have traveled that the whole way, right? Yeah. Previous FanDuel management said, no, different, for whatever reason. The new people are like, why would you do that? They were floored to find out that when Jay Bomeister went down, Panger had to go down and handle things, and we didn't have a reporter down there, right? Those are things like there's more to it. A re-envisioned, a revamped pregame, postgame setup, how they're going to do it. Again, the addition of Pronger. On the radio side, what does it mean? Does it give us a chance to tie in somebody, a Cam Jansen? Who knows, right? There's a lot of what I can tell you from the one conversation I've had with some people on the FanDuel side of this. Their drive to deliver a re-energized product, whole product, different content, all that kind of stuff, right, is leaps and bound what the old management was doing and what the old management was handcuffed with. These guys have been with ESPN for 30 plus years. Jay Rothman produced Monday Night Football, I think, for 20, 23 years, somewhere in there. They've come in and they've said, here's a directive we're going to give you. Go to work. And that's what we're going to do.
I don't know the answer to this question. Have you done TV broadcasts before?
Well, I did the one. I have. I did some in the minors. I did a St. Louis ambush game.
Yeah.
Back in the day. I filled in for John.
It was last year, 2 years ago.
I think. Yeah, and then obviously we've done a ton of the video work and all that stuff. So yeah, it's not totally foreign to me in that side.
Are you comfortable with your face on television, Kerbs?
I don't think I've been comfortable with my face in radios, but
well, that's true. Fair.
Yeah,
me too.
The thing is that they do say that if a camera, you got to watch what you wear because a camera adds 10 pounds. I've asked them to only put half a camera on.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that something you're anxious about, excited about? You've done this for most of your adult life at this point, right? Like,
sure.
What is that like for you? All I've done is radio, and if they suddenly said, "Hey, you're doing TV now," I'd be like, "What the hell does that even mean?"
Look, on a personal level, I'm extremely excited about it. That is very much tempered with knowing the impact of what this decision has meant, for such a terrific friend. But at some point you do move forward with what you've been asked to do. Am I nervous? No.
Really?
Yeah.
Not at all.
No, because, guys, I'm not digging ditches.
Sure.
Right? We're not performing surgery and saving lives. We're entertaining. And do I think I'm going to make some mistakes? Oh, hell yeah. Yep, I am. Do I think we're probably going to do some things that are going to make people go, what in the world just happened? Yeah, but I've done that on radio for 25 years. I just make fun of myself when we do it. That's why Chaser and I, for all those years, our mistakes were sponsored by Busch Beer. We had the Busch Beer bumbler anytime we fumbled, just when we came out with a word salad that made no sense. So, no, not nervous. Anxious to deliver a product I hope people are proud of. Right? And I know I'll work hard on that, but don't take that as overconfident or arrogant.
Sure.
But my biggest excitement level, right, is to now be able to reach out to some other people and learn from them how they did it. To sit down and watch what we do and break it down with Tim Pabst and Phil Malika, and take this new leadership from FanDuel and learn from them and grow. So from a always trying to learn standpoint, it's a terrific challenge I'm excited about.
He's Chris Kerber. He's the voice of the Blues. You'll also be seeing him this year on FanDuel Sports Midwest alongside Joey Vitale. It's been great to be able to catch up with him here for the last 40 minutes or so here on the show. If you guys had any questions about the broadcast, the decision, all of that, it's all there. So if you missed anything, podcast page, 101ESPN.com. The free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It'll be available for you after the show today. Kerbs, thanks for hopping in with us today, man.
Cheers, guys. We'll see you soon. We'll get rolling here.
It's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us as he does each and every Wednesday here on BK and Ferrario. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little Cardinals. J.J. Cooper is one of the best in the business, in my opinion, when it comes to breaking down prospects, draft stuff. He's going to join us next, talk about what the Cardinals got with Liam Doyle, their number 5 overall selection this year. J.J. Cooper next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK. It is time to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and they are available to you online at victorymenshealth.com. Those locations, O'Fallon, Missouri, O'Fallon, Illinois, Sunset Hills, and the one that I personally go to in town and country. There are different ways to unlock your inner champion. It means something different to each and every individual. It could mean erectile dysfunction issues that you've been dealing with, weight loss goals that you're trying to meet, or maybe you've been feeling some of those symptoms that you've heard about low testosterone. You don't have the same energy that you used to. Your workouts are not giving you the same results. Could be low testosterone. They can check those levels for you over at Victory Men's Health. They'll let you know where you're at, whether you're in that upper range of the healthy normal for adult men, or if maybe they could do a little something to help you boost up back to that spot. You can do it all at Victory Men's Health. You can also check them out, as I said, at victorymenshealth.com. That's where you can book that first appointment today. It's Victory Men's Health and online at victorymenshealth.com. Ferrario and Grant Francis. I'm Brandon Kiley. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to break down what the Cardinals were able to do in this year's draft with J.J. Cooper. Baseball America is one of the best sites that you can go to be able to educate yourself on prospects. J.J. Cooper is the editor-in-chief at Baseball America, and you can follow him on Twitter at JJCoop36. JJ, appreciate the time as always, man. Let's start out with the obvious, which is the number 5 overall selection for the Cardinals, and Liam Doyle is like the anti-Cardinals pitcher. He has velocity, he has swing and miss stuff, and people are very excited about the pick. Should they be, in your estimation, excited about the Cardinals bringing Liam Doyle into the organization?
100%. Like, this is a guy who was a dominating performer at Tennessee this year. Now, what's fascinating about him is like you said, this is 100%. This is legit swing and miss stuff. If you said what of the top pitchers, I don't want to say he had the best fastball in the class, because I think harder about it, I can probably come up with a pure reliever who has the same kind of movement characteristics and all, but throws a little harder, in one inning stints. But if you talk about a starter, it's probably the best fastball in the class. It really is a swing and miss fastball. There were games this year against high-level competition in the SEC where you could really just kind of dominate off of that pitch. Now, where there's a second kind of interesting question here is he's got a slider, he's got a cutter, he's got a changeup, and there are debates about how good those pitches are right now. But probably the more important thing is how good are those pitches going to be, right? Because we were talking to evaluators, we were talking to front offices all through this year, all through this season for the college season, and you would have some who are like, I don't think that those are good enough to kind of be a front of the rotation starter down the road. And there were others who would say the components are there. Get him into the pro game. One of these pitches, or even a pitch that he's not throwing right now, is going to pop. And then you're going to have this, he's got, again, I don't want to make it sound like the changeup's pretty good. Changeup, we got above average grades on it right now. If you say that he's added some kind of sliders, some kind of breaking ball, improved one he has right now to be an average or a slightly above average pitch, then you are talking about potentially a front of the rotation type player. And so there's a lot here. There's just also a lot of it's going to be seeing kind of how this develops over the next couple of years going forward.
JJ, as BK mentioned, like, this typically isn't a Cardinals move to go get a guy with swing and miss stuff. Like, they're going for contact, pitch to contact pitcher. Of course, we all know Chaim Bloom is taking over after this season in charge of the Cardinals. Did you the overall draft selections by the Cardinals, did you see a trend that maybe Chaim is implementing for the Cardinals that wasn't there in the past?
If I was going to, I would say maybe, but that this is also where, where this gets tricky is that, like, I love covering the draft partly for this reason, right? Is that I don't want to ever go overboard on things, because there are components here that you can say, like, okay, obviously you just hit on the main one, which is the guy they took at 5 overall is what feels like kind of a non-Cardinals pick. And I say that partly because, if you said, okay, that they took J.D. Arnold, who the A's took 11th overall, that would have felt like what I would say is if you said, okay, well, who is the Cardinals pick at 5 that would fit that? I would say Jamie Arnold did that guy. Jamie Arnold's a little bit more polished, has a little bit longer track record of success at a top-level college conference. But he's a little bit more like, this is what you see is what you get, which is, I would not be surprised at all if Jamie Arnold is in a rotation at the big league level next May. And it's like, oh, he's pretty good right away. And then if there's a knock on him, it may be that he doesn't get a ton better than that. That kind of feels like that Cardinals pitcher that we've talked about over the years. Doyle is a little different than that. But I would also say, like, and maybe this is kind of a Chaim type thing, but this was which I would say good drafts should be this way, but this is kind of a portfolio draft. Obviously, the Cardinals had the 5th pick, which is they won the lottery. They literally won the lottery. They got to pick 5th in a draft where if you went purely lined up on record, they would never have picked 5th. But you look past that and you say, okay, Ryan Mitchell, you're talking about pretty interesting, pretty well-rounded, left-handed bat who there's some athleticism, there's some power, there's some hitting ability. So to get that and say, okay, that's a nice combo that you have this high school hitting prospect to dream on, probably a center fielder long term, to dream on and say, okay, that matches with, we got this this flame throwing potential starting pitcher. And then you say, okay, go back after that, they get a Tanner Franklin, same school, Tennessee. And I mean, Tanner Franklin's probably a reliever, but he's in the Ryan Helsley type, mold of reliever of like, here's 102, can you hit it? And I think that slider's probably going to get better, because to go back to what I said about Doyle, like one thing that I'd say that pro programs really, and when Heim was with the Rays, I would say they were really good about this, is guys got that kind of arm speed, we're going to give him a slider. It may be a big, deep slider. It may be a sweeper. It may be a bullet slider where it doesn't really move that much, but moves just enough to be really different than the fastball. That's the kind of thing you get there. You add a productive college first baseman in the third round. You add another kind of interesting starter in the fourth. You added, to go to a really deep sleeper, like I love their 6th round pick. Like there's a Matthew Miura from Hawaii. I don't want to go overboard on this, but like this is a really some of the best contact skills in the class. He performed at Hawaii. He performed in the K. Doesn't hit for power, but he does run. Like he's really kind of a very useful kind of guy. There's a lot of different types that they added in this draft, I guess is the way I would put it.
So we're talking to J.J. Cooper of Baseball America. He's the editor-in-chief over there. If you're a baseball fan that likes prospects, that's the place you got to go. It's Baseball America. J.J. Cooper's the editor-in-chief. To go back on Liam Doyle specifically, you mentioned with Jamie Arnold, you wouldn't be surprised if he's in a rotation in May and he's pretty good. With Doyle, we've seen this trend recently of top 5, top 10 selections that are pitchers reaching the big leagues and looking really good within a year. Is he somebody who can continue that trend in your estimation, or is this more of a, hey, be patient, you might have something really good here, but it could take a little while longer? What's the ETA kind of look like with him?
I would say, like, we're not going to learn much of anything. Nothing of real substance probably the rest of this year, right? He pitched a lot at Tennessee. I would not expect, like traditionally now with these guys, he may get a couple of innings or whatever. He may just throw him bridge league. They may just shut him down for a while and then work on strength and conditioning and all that. But what I would say is that I wish I could give you an easy answer, but I'll give you a slightly more complex answer. Like, to take Paul Skeens, who obviously is the gold standard dream of what we're talking about with drafting a productive SEC pitcher at the top of the draft, who then turns around and is immediately, he started 2 All-Star games and he's been 2 years in the majors. But in the case of Skeens, he showed up to spring training with new pitches, with a new pitch that he toyed with but never really thrown at LSU, right? And so what I would say is if in spring training, the story of spring training is Liam Doyle is throwing a sweeper, or Liam Doyle is throwing a new slider, or he's got a new grip on it or whatever, and it's all of a sudden, to take another example of an all-star pitcher yesterday, Shane Smith was a Rule 5 pick in that game. He was all-star as a Rule 5 pick. We had him written up, but it's like I look back on it, it's kind of funny because the pitch that has made him dominant in the majors this year is a changeup that he didn't have. He didn't throw. He was taught it this year. So with Doyle, the reason that it may take longer is he needs a better breaking ball realistically to develop to his full potential as a major league starter. Now, if in spring training he has found that, which sounds crazy, but we have seen examples of that happening. Paul Skeens with the splinter, which he already had stuff, but then he added another one. But if he's done something like that, then the ETA could very well be sometime next year, right? Sometime pretty early next year. He was dominant. He was the Friday starter on one of the best teams in the country, facing a lot of the best teams in the country in college baseball this year, and he was dominating them a lot of the time. He carried a reasonably heavy workload where you're not worried like, oh, we're only going to be able to get 75 innings out of him next year. None of those things. So he has all those components to move quickly. The second part of it, though, is that, okay, how much refinement, how quickly can he develop those things? And I want to say, like, so it could be in spring training that happens, right? It could be that he spends all next year working on finding those things. And that's not terrible. That's not something where it's like, oh, clearly he's a draft bust because Jamie Arnold's in the big leagues, for example, and he's not. It could be that if those things take a little longer to develop, then you are talking about more of a 27, ETA, and he kind of blossoms in 27 or 28. And then, I'm trying to lay out possibilities. There is the other possibility here where it never clicks, right? Like, there is risk with all these picks. And so we're assuming health, because that's obviously something a pitcher does. But assuming he's healthy, but it never clicks, I would say the disappointing but still productive result is if this never really works, he never has a breaking ball that really works for him, that never can get to an average or above average. In that case, then you've probably got a really good, high-leverage, closes games type reliever. And that's not what you want with the fifth pick. But, I mean, we talked to a lot of scouts this year, a lot of front offices who were like, if that's the role you wanted him in, and I don't know why it would be when you draft him fifth overall, he could do that next year, right? Like, you could send him out. If you wanted to Garrett Crochet it, to take another example of a Tennessee pitcher, Garrett Crochet, because it was a pandemic, jumped straight from Tennessee to pitching in the White Sox bullpen in the playoffs. And yes, if you're a very young baseball fan, it's hard to believe, but the White Sox were in the playoffs in 2020. But he was able to do that, and then eventually he went back to starting. Liam Doyle could do that. Like, I don't know if you'd wanted him to do that this year because of how many innings he had, but if the Cardinals made the playoffs, if you said, can Liam Doyle pitch quality innings in a bullpen right now in the big leagues, I would say the answer is probably yes.
All right, JJ, we'll get you out of here on this. For any of our listeners right now, and I know some prospect people hate doing this, so I apologize for putting you on the spot. However, if this works, like if Liam Doyle develops the breaking pitch in some way or another that you're talking about, he gets to the big leagues and he's good. I'm not talking about it like he's going to have this career necessarily, but what will that look like at the big league level? What kind of a pitcher does he pitch like? What are some of the similarities in your estimation?
I would say again, I hesitate that I'm becoming too simplistic by saying this. I'm comparing him to another Tennessee first round in recent years. But Garrett Crochet does kind of come to mind. Garrett Crochet was one of the Doyle has a longer track, partly because of the pandemic, but Doyle has a longer track record of success at Tennessee than Garrett Crochet had at Tennessee. But we are talking about two really big arms who there was some reliever risk coming out of the draft. And I would say right now, it's fair to say, if you're the Cardinals and Liam Doyle ends up having a Garrett Crochet-like career, again, Crochet, a lot of it's still to be written, but looking at what he is right now, that's a pretty good outcome.
Sounds pretty damn good to me,
I
JJ.
will take that, JJ.
Cardinals haven't had one of those in a decade. Yeah. So it'd be
now,
really
if we can only
nice.
find a hitter that's the same profile, but we'll get there.
We'll see what Weatherholt becomes. Maybe he can be a really good player, even if it's not a superstar.
I would say, he's now in AAA. I would say that's the next, got to be one of the next of last year's first rounders to reach the majors. And he's moving quite fast. And by the way, it was great to, he was at the Futures game. He was at our prospect pad last week. And man, what a dude. Like, in addition to being a really good player, it's really enjoyable to talk to him, too.
JJ, it's great to catch up, man. Thank you so much for hopping on with us today. Hopefully, maybe at the end of the season or something, we'll catch up, see where the Cardinals farm system is at overall as well, beyond just what they got in their draft this year. Wish you nothing but the best. People should check you out over at Baseball America. Get a subscription if you haven't already, and be following JJ Cooper on Twitter as well. All the best, man. Thanks for the time.
Thank y'all.
You got it. That's JJ Cooper. Appreciate him, as always, joining us here on BK and Ferrario. You like a Garrett Crochet?
Yeah, God, I love a Garrett Crochet. Just thank you for finally drafting something that's against the norm. If you're the Cardinals, I'll take the the swing and miss stuff and the high velocity that you might have to wait a year on.
Listen, man, I have no idea how this is going to go. He's right. Like all this stuff.
Everything is a risk.
It's risky. There's volatility involved. He could become a reliever. He could get hurt tomorrow. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. Hopefully none of that happens. But like, it's a pitching prospect. Pitching prospects will break your heart. We saw this with Alex Reyes, who I was certain was going to be a worst case scenario front end of the rotation starter or dominant closer.
Yeah.
There's no other outcome. Like, this guy has to be good at the big league level. And it just, outside of, I don't know, half a season, never really worked out for him with the Cardinals. So they will break your heart. However, if the Cardinals got it right here and he becomes something similar to Garrett Crochet at the major league level, that changes so much about the projection of what this team could be, let's call it 2 years from now.
Yeah.
If you've got Doyle/Crochet, that at the front end of your rotation, and if TK Roby figures this thing out, as he has been so far this year, I don't know what's going on with this injury situation, but hopefully he's fine. But if TK Roby figures it out, and then you've got like Quinn Matthews and Matthew Liberator and Michael McGreevy, and we'll see what Gordon Graceffo becomes. Tink Hence is still out there and on the injured list again. If you can figure out like 3, 4, 5 of these guys, whew,
that's what I was going to ask.
It changes everything.
We didn't have time for, but I have to imagine that's the strength of this Cardinals pipeline right now is pitching. And obviously you're not in a position to deal away something like that, but when you have an area of strength, that's how you fix your weakness, which is, of course, the position player. And you just kind of wonder where the Cardinals go from the next couple of years because of a pick like this.
He is Alex Ferrario. That's Grant Francis. I'm Brandon Kiley. If you missed any of our conversation with JJ Cooper, check it out on the podcast page after the show today, 101ESPN.com, the free 101 ESPN app. And that is all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app is super easy to use, free to download, and it is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We'll have an abbreviated edition of More Likely to Happen here on BK and Ferrario.
What's more likely to happen? They'll figure it out. BK and Ferrario's most likely to happen.
Alongside Alex and Grant on BK, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. We're going to have an abbreviated version of it today, unfortunately. Just spent too much time talking to Kerbs with JJ. A lot of good interviews. We'll certainly... tomorrow is going to be a day to really lay out.
Yeah.
If you guys want us to have some extended conversations, we want to get some listener interactions, hey, mic drop feature, wide open tomorrow. We can have all of that tomorrow, I promise you. Today was very heavy on the interviews. I do, in some ways, apologize for it. In other ways, I hope you enjoyed it.
We gave you content, which is what our goal is to do here on BK and for content and entertainment.
Yeah, that's the hope, at least. All right, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You give us two scenarios, we'll tell you which one is more likely. All right, Alex, more likely to bat in the Cardinals' top 3 next season: Mason Wynn or Lars Nootbaar?
Mason Wynn. I don't think Lars Nootbaar is on this team next season. I think Lars Nootbaar is a trade chip in the offseason for the Cardinals because Brendan Donovan will be playing that left field position.
I would go Mason Wynn as well. I think that my personal answer on this would be neither. I don't think either of them will be batting in the top 3 for you this time next year, but I agree with you. I think Newt likely will be batting lower in the order. I think they have seen now, Donnie is your leadoff hitter. I think they really like having Burley as that lefty bat towards the middle of their order, and then you've got, Contreras and Herrera. I think that's kind of your top 4 construction right now. What do you got for us?
All right, guys, more likely to happen. So I, during commercial breaks, have dug into the schedule a little bit more. I tweeted this out at Ferrario 101 ESPN. 11 back-to-backs with 6 of them from October to December for the Blues. The longest road trip of the season is in November, and they play 12 of their 23 home games before Thanksgiving. More likely to happen, the Blues sit in a top 3 spot in their division on Thanksgiving or sit out of a playoff spot on Thanksgiving.
I'm going to say out of a playoff spot, and it's not because I hate the Blues, just because, hey, man, listen, I think there are some really good teams in this division. Dallas, Colorado, and then between Minnesota, Winnipeg, just one other team is up there ahead of you. So I'll say out of a playoff spot is more likely for the Blues. And that's not me hating, I promise. I think this team is going to make the playoffs.
It's hating.
It's interesting because I do agree with BK that with the division being so tough, it's going to be in a top 3 position. But the Minnesota Wild last year sort of had that route where they came out of nowhere. Nobody expected them to be as good as they were. And, of course, they were above the Winnipeg Jets for the longest time until Kirill Kaprizov got injured. With Jim Montgomery being here for a full season, having, the training camp, the off season to really get everybody, on the same page from the start of a season, I could see him being top 3 in the division at the time of Thanksgiving, so I will side on that.
Mine was top 3 as well, and that my whole thought process was what Minnesota did, because if you look at it, January is where the schedule really intensifies for the Blues. With all of the home games and how well they played at home this past season and a lot of division opponents, I actually think it's more likely you're a top 3 team.
All right. More likely to happen, a Central Division team that did not make the playoffs last year, so Utah, Nashville, Chicago, will make the playoffs, or the Blues will finish top 3 in the Central?
I think it's more likely that one of the teams in the divisions that missed it last year will get in this year.
So who comes out then?
Minnesota.
Because that'd be a Central Division team.
Yeah, I think it's Minnesota. To me, I think that last wild card spot is going to
that I was unprepared for.
To me, I think that wild card spot comes down to Utah, Anaheim, or Calgary.
Over Minnesota, you're saying?
Yeah.
You think Minnesota drops out?
I think so.
Utah's the team that I had circled. Hadn't thought about it this far. Glad you asked the follow-up question. Really make me think on my feet here. I'd like to revise my answer and say it's more likely that the Blues end up in the top 3.
Hell yeah. I did my job.
That's what you're going for all along. Yeah, I would say that one as well. It's more likely that they end in the top 3. I'm skeptical.
Grant made me correct my own answer.
I'm skeptical of a couple of those teams in the Central. Now, I know I'll probably be proven wrong, but Colorado to me is thin beyond their top 2 lines. And
I'll say this, you were right last year about Utah and Nashville.
And I still don't believe neither of those teams are playoff caliber teams, because Utah didn't fix their goaltending problem and Nashville basically did nothing.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical of Winnipeg as well. I think Winnipeg, with losing Ehlers, I'm skeptical that they can continue to do what they've done over the last couple of years.
I think Winnipeg's still going to be top 3, but I think they just peaked.
Yep.
I think this is the beginning of the downslope.
And
for
I think
them.
Colorado's, even though they've got McKinnon and McCarr, and they're 2 of the best in the game, dude, you go beyond the top 2 lines, they're soft.
All right.
don't have goaltending.
I'm saying this to me as much as I am you guys. We're going to go with these and no explanations. Just answer the question directly. It'll be rapid fire edition. I just don't want to skip all of these texts. 314
shut up.
399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. More likely to happen. Bennington is a top 5 finalist for the Vezina, or Snuggerud finishes top 5 for Rookie of the Year.
Snuggerud, top 5 Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, probably Snuggerud.
Sweep it. More likely to happen. The Chiefs win the AFC West by exactly 1 game, or the Eagles win the NFC East by at least 2 games.
Eagles win NFC East by 2 games.
I'd go with the Chiefs.
I'll go with the Eagles. More likely to happen. The Blues add another forward or a D-min this offseason.
Add another forward. I'm keeping my eyes on Victor Olofsson.
D-min for me.
I would say D as well.
More likely to happen. Cardinals trade for Brent Rooker or stand pat at the deadline.
Stand pat at the deadline.
Yeah, stand pat.
Should trade for Brent Rooker.
Stand pat for me as well. More likely to make it to the college football playoff. Illinois or Mizzou? Not going to like this answer. Illinois.
Yeah, probably.
Sorry, Mizzou. If you weren't in the SEC,
They had their chance.
I'd pick you in a heartbeat.
Really frustrating, but it is what it is. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. More likely, the Blues win a playoff series or the Cardinals make the playoffs first? Which one's more likely to happen first? Blues win a playoff series, Cardinals make it to the postseason.
Blues win a playoff series because I don't think Cardinals are making it.
I think so, too, and I think it's this upcoming season.
I agree.
Give me the Cardinals. Coming up next is Logan Mailloux, the biggest swing player for the Blues in 2025. We had a little bit of a disagreement on this before the show. We'll see if that carries over to the show coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Ozzie Smith ready for the flip, and we're ready to start the season. Here we go.
This is Cardinal Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith, and I'm flipping with excitement over the giveaway on Thursday, July 24th. That night, 20,000 fans 16 and older will take home the first ever legendary backflip bobblehead, featuring me, courtesy of Phillips 66. Don't miss the flipping awesome giveaway. We can't wait to see you on Thursday, July 24th. Secure your tickets and learn more at cardinals.com/promotions.
Hats off to family fun on Sunday, July 27th, when the Birds host the Padres. That day, 20,000 fans, 16 and older, will get a City Connect rope hat courtesy of Quick Trip. And thanks to Haichu, 10,000 kids ages 15 and under will take home a Cardinals hat with custom charms. Upgrade your and your kiddos' game gear. Snag your tickets today at cardinals.com/promotion.
This is Alec Burleson, St. Louis Cardinals, for the Lou.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk, my friends, over at Classic Air Care when it comes to your HVAC system. Look, maintenance is the number one thing in terms of keeping it working for you as long as possible. And the one thing Classic Air Care urges everybody to remember is to change your filter. If you're like me, when I was a first-time homeowner, I totally forgot about that. I'd go about 3 or 4 months without changing it. There'd be issues. They'd come over. They'd be like, you need to change this. The cool thing that they have now is they have a filter program where you can sign up for it, and every month Classic Air Care mails you that filter to remind you, hey, time to change it. But it's also maintaining that HVAC system, making sure that you're getting somebody out once a year to check it. The maintenance agreement, twice a year. You have them coming out checking your AC and your heater. But the big thing to remember is when something goes wrong, Classic Air Care is the place to go to look for a new HVAC system. And if you're considering a new one, they offer free estimates at the comfort of your own home. Just go to the website, classicaircare.com, click on Instant HVAC System Quote. You answer 4 simple questions, and they will give you a price right there in your browser. So do that today if you're looking for a new one, or schedule your maintenance appointment today. Just tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
Grant Francis here with a SportsCenter update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night at the end of the All-Star game, it was 6-6 after 9 innings. It went to a home run swing-off, and the NL prevailed over the AL 4-3 to take the All-Star game. The MLB will return to action this upcoming Friday as the Cardinals head to Arizona to resume play, and they'll kick off a 3-game series with the Diamondbacks. I'm Grant Francis. The SportsCenter update's been driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alex, would you agree that the San Jose Sharks have improved more than any other team in the NHL this offseason?
No.
Well, that is the opinion of one Dom Luszczyszyn. I don't know how to pronounce
Yeah, you don't even know how to
his
pronounce his name. It's not
How do you
worth
say
it. Luszczyszyn.
Luszczyszyn?
Luszczyszyn.
Dom, over at
Yeah,
The Athletic,
we go Dom.
ranked all the teams that have improved the most so far this offseason. Now, it is worth noting, this is based on what they have lost and what they have brought in, or what they were literally replacing from their lineup a year ago. So the San Jose Sharks went from absolute hot garbage to, some decent, average NHL-level players, like Nick Leddy. Legit improvement for the San Jose Sharks. He's going to come in and be a real NHL defenseman. That's a hell of a lot better than some of the guys that they had on their blue line from a year ago.
They had Jake Wallman on their blue line a year ago.
Said than some of the options that they had a year ago. He's not more than a third pair defenseman, but he's fine in that regard.
Yeah, he's a top pair guy for San Jose.
Second most improved team, according to the Athletics, Dom, was the Montreal Canadiens. Part of that is Zach Bolduc. A big part of it, though, is Noah Dobson, who's coming in.
That one I would agree with.
Number 3, Anaheim. I know you have liked what they have done this offseason.
Absolutely.
Number 4, Carolina, bringing in Nikolai Ehlers.
They should be number
DeAndre
1.
Miller. And number 5, the Vegas Golden Knights, Mitch Marner. Hard to argue against that one. Alex, on this list, what really sets you off is where the St. Louis Blues come in. They are at number 20, the 20th most improved team this offseason, according to Dom of The Athletic. He says they're basically, in terms of the overall, like if you're looking at NHL, the video game, the overall rating of the team is basically the same as it was a year ago. Now, let me read to you his explanation on that, and then I would love to hear your response, and we can hear from the audience as well. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service X line. From Dom. St. Louis's placement here is not a product of what seems like a pretty good offseason, but rather the lack of projection for Logan Mailloux. The young defender played just 7 chaotic games for Montreal last year, and it wouldn't be fair to judge what he can do based on that data. In theory, he is exactly the kind of defender that the Blues are needing, one who can bring a lot of offense from the blue line. In practice, though, Mailloux is a giant question mark. Zach Bolduc, however, is not. He looks like a potentially strong top 6 player with legitimate defensive upside as well. The difference there is what colors the Blues' placement this low on the list. If Mailloux can be as impactful as Bolduc already is, the Blues would shoot up this list considerably. That's still a big if at this juncture, though, but at the very least, it was a probably worthwhile bet considering St. Louis's surplus of winger talent. The presence of Jimmy Snuggerud for a full season should help offset the loss of Bolduc. Aside from that, it's easy to like what the Blues did this offseason, nabbing Pius Suter and Nick Bjugstad. Those two considerably bolster the team's center depth, with the latter being a notable upgrade over Radek Faksa. So he seems to really like what the Blues did this offseason. His algorithm, though, says, I don't know on Logan Mailloux, and it's probably pretty low on him thus far. So, Alex, when you hear that, you think about where they're at on this list. How do you feel about this ranking?
Look, my biggest issue with this, and I understand it's going off of the analytics, which is why it's, or not analytics, it's going off of his algorithm of where it places the Blues. But, originally I looked at it and then I read it. But originally I look at it and I see that Chicago was a more improved team than the Blues. And I just call horse poo on that. But I understand it's the algorithm. Chicago was dog poo and then they improved a little bit.
Dog poo to bad is a legitimate improvement.
Here's the thing about the description, though. Like, it's not Mailloux for Bolduc. Yes, you're taking Bolduc out and putting Mailloux in, but Mailloux is basically a player over Leddy and Ryan Suter. To me, the top 4 is still the same. And then you're adding in a Mailloux who has upside. Yes, he's a question mark, but Ryan Suter was fine. Letty was fine. I'm adding a question mark. Understand it. But I'm taking a Bolduc and Foxa out, and I'm replacing it with a Pius Suter, who, at least from what a lot of people are saying, has an upside as well, just like Bolduc. And then I'm also adding in a Nick Bukestad, who is an improvement offensively and somewhat defensively over Radek Foxa. That's where the improvement is, in my opinion. I'm taking a forward out, and I'm replacing it with two forwards who improve the center depth of what the Blues had last year. Mailloux is absolutely a question mark, and it's a swing player. The upside could be Bouchard. The downside could be he's not an impact this season. But to me, the team is still improved because I'm taking Bolduc out, but I'm also putting in two centermen who are second and third line potential.
Maybe. I'm not 100% certain that Suter is going to be better this year than Bolduc. I think he has a chance to be, but I'm not certain of that. I think at a minimum, maybe it's a push. And then Bukestad versus Fox, I would rather have Bukestad because I just value the offense that he brings to the table. But how much of an upgrade is it? Oh, it's hard to know. I think we are maybe underselling how much of a downgrade Mailloux could be for this season compared to Letty/Suter. And that is not me saying that I am out on Mailloux. I said at the time, I think this is a worthwhile swing. I was one of the first to say, I think this was a smart trade by Doug Armstrong. I think it is the kind of move that you have to make in the position they're in, but most general managers don't have the cojones to make because you're giving up something that you're pretty sure is good. Like Bolduc, I see very little downside there. That guy's going to be a good NHL player. Mailloux, we have no clue. He is all about, size, speed, puck mover, potential, all of those things. Defensively, is he ever going to be better than what he has been? We don't know. That's the honest to God answer. We don't know. They believe yes, otherwise they don't make the move. But for right now, I can't say with certainty that he will be. So I think that's how you get yourself into a place of, I'm not certain the Blues are better right now than they were last year. I'm not. I think they will be. My projection, if I was doing this list and I was using a projection for what I think they will be next year, I think they're better. I do. I think Mailloux will be better than Letty/Suter were. I think Suter will bring enough to the table that is better than or as good as what Bolduc would have brought. I think you're better defensively. I think a year with Jim Montgomery bringing in the system will make you a better version of that team as well. Just the guys that are returning will be better. So I do think this will be a better team. But I think what this does is it kind of levels us out a bit because he brings up what I believe are legitimate questions when it comes to Mailloux and what he's going to be. It's why I think he's one of the biggest swing players for the Blues this year. Yeah. Because the upside for him is a top four defenseman where he overtakes Justin Falk on that right side. And now you look at it, you're like, hot damn, between him and Broberg, we are in a really good spot here with young, big, puck-moving, physical defensemen that could eventually be our top pair. The downside is you might not want to play him every night. It could be a situation where he becomes your seventh defenseman by the end of the season because you're just not comfortable with him defensively. So to me, if you're looking at swing players for this team, guys that could either go way up or way down, he's right up there on my list.
Yeah. To me, he's not. He'd probably be third on my list. Number one on my list in terms of the swing player is Jimmy Snuggerud. Logan Mailloux.
That's a fair one.
Logan Mailloux, to me, you got a year of time with him to where he can be a third pair defenseman for you. He can be a guy that plays 17, 18 minutes with Tyler Tucker, and you're not relying on him because you've got Broberg, you've got Falk, you've got Parayko, you've got Fowler. And those four played a lot of minutes for you and were good for you last year to get to the point that you are. And if Mailloux is better than what you imagine, well, then that's a win because the hope is that, he can play at the NHL level and then next year he kind of does what Tyler Tucker did this past year. The swing player is Jimmy Snuggerud because if Jimmy Snuggerud is not a if he's not a top six winger for you, can't generate the offense that you believed he could to play with Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich, then you gave away Zach Bolduc, who was the one that could replace him at that top level, and now you've got a second or a third line winger that you don't know what to do with Robert Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich. So Snuggerud's the guy that the upside is, you can compete for a top three spot, and you're not going to worry about the Bolduc trade because Mailloux looks like he's progressing, and Snuggerud's a guy that can be potentially a 25-goal scorer. The downside is Jimmy Snuggerud's a third-line winger, and now you're trying to put Jake Neighbors up there or a Texier up there, or you've broken up Holloway and Kyrou, and now you don't have that depth of scoring.
Yeah, it's a fascinating team, man. I love the swings they took this offseason, and again, I think they will be better this year. But I like seeing some of the downside arguments because it makes me reconsider some of my preconceived notions on, hey, this is all going to be good. Everything's going to get better. That is typically not the way that these things go. All right, coming up next, we'll get into the BK and Ferrario Rewind, revisit last night's All-Star game, give you our final thoughts on that, and whether or not Aaron Boone should be fired. We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
it back with the Daily Rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Lou, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
The All-Star Game rocked last night. I thought the swing-off was fantastic. I do think that Aaron Boone should probably be fired for not meeting the moment in that. Alex, that you had a guy batting third for the American League that, frankly, most of America was not familiar with prior to yesterday in Aranda. You had Bobby Witt Jr. I'm wearing his shirt today. He's a pretty big deal.
Overrated. Aranda was hitting third for a reason.
Yeah.
Impact bat.
Sure.
He just didn't get his shot.
21 career home runs. Not this year. 21 career home runs, and that was the guy that you had batting third. But
An
Alex,
up-and-coming player.
we can do this real quick. Do you think that Major League Baseball should use that more often? It was a one-off yesterday, but is that something that you think the swing-off could be implemented into regular season games, for example?
I think it should be implemented into it. And I know the traditionalists won't like it, but to me, it's entertainment. And that's what sports really is. And you're talking about something that goes late into the games rather than continuing to play extra innings. You just go into it and you say, look, you get one shot, and if it doesn't work, you go to the swing off. You talk about keeping fans invested and keeping people at the ballpark or locked into their television. The swing off is what does it. So, yeah, I would find a way to implement this just like the shootout is in hockey.
There have been 46 games this year that have gone into 11 innings. Only 8 of them have gone to 12. I would start this, like, just at the beginning stages. I'd start it out saying, okay, you get the 10th and the 11th inning with the normal rules as currently constructed. And then in the 12th inning, if you're still playing, we're going to a swing off. You no longer can go more than 11 innings in a baseball game prior to the swing off. That would be the way that I would personally handle it. That means you see like 15, 20 of them over the course of an entire season. Most teams might not even play a game in which there is a swing off. It becomes still something that is a novelty. It's exciting. It's fun. It's fresh whenever you do see it. I would personally go with it at the 12-inning mark. But, yeah, I think it is something that you should definitely consider. The other thing that was a huge success yesterday was the automatic ball strike system. The challenge system is super easy to use. Everybody knows what's going on. It's quick. They immediately get the call right. I think it's something, now that we've seen it implemented in a Major League Baseball game, that somewhat matters, I suppose. I'm all in favor of it. Sounds like it's going to be implemented to Major League Baseball next year, and I think everybody's going to be totally fine with that.
It's not going to slow down the game at all. In fact, it speeds it up, and I don't know. I think it's something that they need to get to faster, and now that you saw it on a big stage like that in a meaningful game, I think it was important.
He's Alex Ferrario. That is Grant Francis. I'm Brandon Kiley. Grant going to be in with us for the rest of the week. T-Bone is out. We will talk to you guys tomorrow at 11, and when we do so, we are going to have, it sounds like Joey Vitale tomorrow, Alex?
So far, I texted with him, and we're just trying to set up a time.
Joey's going to be on with us tomorrow, so we'll talk with Joey Vitale. The Fast Lane is coming up next here on 101 ESPN.